Now, Bill, you sent us a text a little while ago before we sat down to record. I hope you don't mind me sharing it, but I think it will help tee up our episode here. You said we're 1 hour.
There's a spelling mistake.
That's okay.
Don't read the spelling mistake.
I got it. Don't worry. I was gonna clean it up for you. Don't worry. We're 1 hour away from our conversation, and I'm all nerves. It almost feels like I'm back in college, and I'm standing inside the store, waiting for Steve to show up with the diamond delivery for us to break down. I've been flooded with good thoughts and memories over the past few days, and I can't wait to spend the next few hours talking to you guys. That's what you sent to us earlier today. So that's still talk me through what you've been going through.
Oh yeah, I'm like getting flustered right now. It's hard. This is thinking about it as the end of, so to speak. I know it's not the end. Obviously, we always hope to call each other and check in on each other and things like that. But you put such finality to this, and even in Steve's podcast episode, you were like, "No, this is really the end. I think this is the end." And so it's kind of hard, It's not
the end.
It's not like Anthony said, when you decide to open the store, when me and Anthony decide to reopen the store, maybe we can do another podcast.
That's the one escape hatch that I'm leaving for myself and for the audience here. If anyone, Steve or otherwise, ever brings back alternate realities, we'll bring back my comic shop history. But otherwise, this is the end.
He threw down the gauntlet.
No, we don't play that.
I didn't say it as a challenge, but I think that's the one thing that if that happened, then there would be new story to tell. But otherwise, look, is there a temptation to keep this going, even if it's just one a year? Of course, there's a part of me that says, oh, we could do a little something here and there. But I think that there's a beauty to having an ending, to putting a bow on this, to saying, hey, we told the story of our crew, and now it's time to wrap it up. And it is a little bittersweet, but that's okay. Like, it's okay to have that. So again, for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, this is the series finale of my comic shop history. I know Steve is skeptical. I know.
This is the annual finale. we should actually plan for next year's. This is like that football guy, Brady, retiring. It's like all the reporters hold up a sign that says "See you next season" after he announces a retirement. Right? It's this is what, the third, fourth finale?
Look, when we finished the first season, there was a bit of finality to that, but it was also that the store was closing. So I feel like that was justified. And then at the end of season 5, that was what I considered at the time the end of the alternate reality saga. That's because I got a little caught up in Kevin Feige and his MCU and the phases of the Marvel movies and everything. And I was like, this is the end of like the Infinity Saga. That was what was in my head at the time. And then we had the pandemic, and then that prompted the longer Halloween run of episodes, and then we kept it going. But this really is it. I understand your skepticism, though. I don't begrudge you that. I get why you would sit there and be like, okay, I'll see you for the next finale. But only time will tell. But as far as I'm concerned, this is the end.
Okay.
This is the end.
Wink, wink.
It's the end of this show, but as I always like to remind the audience members, we have a lot of other shows in the Flat Squirrel Podcast Network, and Alternate Realities alums pop up on those shows all the time. So if you want to hear more conversations between myself and the folks you see here, tune in to Digging for Kryptonite and another exciting episode in The Adventures of Superman and the forthcoming Patreon show Beyond Metropolis. There's a lot of stuff out there, and a lot of people have come over to the other shows, which I greatly appreciate. Now listen, later in the show, I'm going to share some audience comments and questions. We got a few things that I want to talk about, but there's one that stood above the rest that I have to include in our cold open here, because if ever there was something that it stood out and it just kind of encapsulated a lot, kind of hearkening back to customer experiences we've had over the years and all that. So, we've been doing this show for 8 years and well over 100 episodes. We've got, 1,500 people who follow the Facebook page, which relatively modest in terms of social media numbers, but it's all good.
Sorry, is this including all the Superman stuff, or this is just alternate reality?
This is just my comic shop history.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So, well, that's people who like the page, not necessarily listeners, but nevertheless. So I put the call out. I'm like, all right, we're recording the finale soon. Any final comments or questions? And we got a few, and again, I'll share the others later. But there was one from a gentleman, and look, this is public, so I'll share the name. And I don't say this to put anyone on blast. It so struck me. A gentleman named Mark, and he commented, he said, you guys had a series going with 4 question marks. And that, to me, I think that was my favorite comment out of all of this as we prepare for the series finale. Like, you guys had a show. And I said to myself, and I wrote to him, I said, I'm not sure if you're teasing or seriously asking, but yes, we've had this show since 2015, but I just thought in this moment where I'm like, all right, guys, share everything that you've loved about this podcast. Someone's like, you had a podcast?
Podcast.
What podcast? I love it. No commentary, Steve? I thought you would have had something.
No, I'm just thinking. There's an old TV commercial about that, but I can't remember what it was. I'm just trying to remember.
Well, this guy has a lot of catching up to do.
Anyway, let me put it this way. We might have at least one new audience member tuning in, and this could be the series finale, could be their first episode. So make sure we keep everything nice and accessible and give context for everything, because you never know.
Are we recording right now?
We are recording.
I thought this was still, don't say anything that's good for the show.
No, that's why when I tossed it to you, I was waiting for a SCO zinger about the nature of humanity, and you coughed and you motioned to Rich, and that was it.
No, I thought I'd pass the ball to Rich and let him comment.
Yeah.
The elder statesman.
Yeah. So, Steve, are we bringing the plane in for landing?
Flaps up, flaps down, I don't remember.
Yes, we're recording now.
Oh, okay.
As far as other little bits of business before we officially begin, I called Jay Mizell yesterday. It was his birthday.
It was his birthday, yes. I forgot. No, I didn't forget. I just didn't have the time. But yeah, it was 87th birthday.
I'd have to double check the math, but that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I got him, though. He picked up on the second ring and sounded good overall, but definitely in terms of kind of his words failing, this was one of the more pronounced instances of that. And not to bring this down, but, of course, I said, how are you doing and all of that. And he did share he's been depressed, which, of course, is natural, normal part of all of this. But I told him we always are all thinking of him and everybody asks about him. And I said, tomorrow, I'm getting together with Steve and Rich and Bill, and we're doing the last Alternate Realities podcast. And he said, that's fantastic. And the only thing that made me a little sad about that is that wasn't Classic Jay, because Classic Jay would have been like, what is that bullshit? So, so it's a little bittersweet.
Yeah, normally what's a podcast?
So we always think of Jay Mizell. We love Jay. Listen, as far as phone calls, other phone calls, this has been hanging over me since we started this podcast, the notion of trying to get Jeff Wong on the show. I've tried. And earlier this week, I sent him a text message because I wasn't positive if it was actually his phone number. It is, but I wasn't sure. I must have gotten it. I don't know if I ever got it from him directly or from his file at the store. Anyway, I've had this phone number for Jeff. Earlier in the week, I texted him, no response. The other night, I just called him, and he did not pick up.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Jeff Wong.
Is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Jeff, this is Anthony from Alternate Realities. I sent you a text, but I just wanted to follow up. I hope you're doing well. It's been so many years. I just wanted to reach out because I've been doing a podcast about alternate realities, and it's our last episode. A ton of people have been asking about you over the years, and I would just love to know how you are and what you've been up to. So if you want to give me a call back, we could chat for a few minutes, or you can text me back. Totally up to you. Either way, I hope all is well. Take care. And I haven't heard anything. So here's the thing to the audience, and I wish I could say, oh, this is a bit, and now he's going to be on. It's not. And it breaks my heart because that's one of those things, like if I were just a listener of the show and I had followed all of these stories and the documentaries and stuff, that would be one of the things on my list. It's on my list as host, but like as an audience member, I'd be like, oh, we got to hear from Jeff Wong. I just don't think it was in the cards.
Well, you're a friend of his on
Or
Facebook,
you're setting us up.
right?
No, I'm not setting us up. Bill is friends with him on Facebook.
Oh, are you? Okay, I know, because I looked him up once, and I saw that one of you guys was a friend of his.
Do you remember the time we went to, wasn't Pizza and Brew, maybe it was TGI Fridays or something? He got us in there, and he got us the big discount, we all get steaks. And like 2 minutes into eating the entree, he goes, oh, yeah, last night things were bad. The toilets overflowed. All the bus boys had to go clean out the place.
You got the wildest stories about just everyday life in general, but certainly working at Fridays. There was a knife fight I remember that he was involved in at Fridays. Oh, man, one day. See, that's the reason to have another season of Alternate Realities if he gets in touch with you.
All right. Well, audience, I tried with Jeff Wong, but in any event, he's with us in spirit and a larger than life character within the lore of Alternate Realities. All right, guys, should we do this? All right.
Ready.
Here we go. Previously on My Comic Shop History. In early 2015, Steve Oto, owner of Alternate Realities in Scarsdale, New York, announced that the comic book store would close after 23 years in operation. That spring, as the store was being dismantled, a community united to say farewell, and this podcast was born. Almost a decade later, My Comic Shop History has journeyed to other comic shops and conventions, spawned a documentary film, and inspired a whole network of podcasts. But everything has its season, and the time has come to bid the store and this podcast farewell. Join us now for one last Alternate Realities reunion in the series finale of My Comic Shop History. Welcome to the series finale of My Comic Shop History. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. This is For All Seasons, Chapter 4, Fall. And for our swan song, I am joined by a trio of Alternate Realities legends, absolute legends. To my right, on my computer screen, all the way from New Mexico, longtime employee of Alternate Realities, Dr. Bill Maio. Welcome.
Hey guys, I'm so glad to be present for this finale episode. I'm sorry I'm not there in person.
Hey, I'm glad that we were able to get you here at all, so it's totally fine. And now, here in Flat Squirrel Studios, across from me, the beloved elder statesman of Alternate Realities, the spirit of friendship and fun personified, the ever mysterious Rich Roney. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
And to my left, the co-founder, longtime owner, and closer of Alternate Realities, Steve Oto. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having us. I can't wait to do the next one.
Like we said in our little preamble, this really is the finale to this podcast series. Short of someone bringing the store back, whether it's you or someone else, which I don't think any of us really foresee that happening. This really will be it. But if that ever happens, we'll bring the podcast back. But otherwise, this is the end of the road for this podcast.
The store exists. It still exists. My eBay thing is Alternate Realities 2.0. That's the username. So in a sense, it still exists. It's all the same merchandise. So it just transported from Scarsdale to Connecticut.
But you're not Super Oto anymore. You changed it?
I guess somebody did. I guess it must have been me. But again, it's one of those things where I just don't know.
Who else has access?
I don't know. Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's like suddenly it's like, wow, I guess I have a store, and it's listed as Alternate Realities 2.0. So it's like, okay.
So Bill, let me toss that to you. What is your when Steve says no, the store still exists, and it describes how it exists in this eBay form? I guess how does that resonate with you?
Oh, I think that's okay. I think my longing for the store really becomes a longing for like that time of my life, you know? And so the store is not there anymore, and I don't think it's going to be resurrected as 2.0 online. But I'm glad to know that you're still diligently selling the inventory.
Do you have any sense? Are there former customers who've been buying from you on eBay?
One or two, and those are the guys that since they're local, I'll take it and I say don't pay with
Shipping.
Yeah, I'll take it down to oh yeah. And I'll drop it off with Mark, and because they'll be his customers or something, and he just passes it on to them. Save a little shipping. In fact, sometimes I say, "Don't buy this. We'll cancel it. And I'll just give it to you."
Ever the astute financial manager.
This retail, I never got retail down right.
No, that's quite all right. But yeah, I mean, I would certainly say for any audience members who want a piece of classic Alternate Realities merchandise. Well, they should go.
Bill's got the best. He's got the neon signs, you know. So that's the best of the.
Look at those signs.
Yeah, I mean, he fixed them. Remember, like one of them didn't work. Which one was it? Comics never work.
I think stuff
never worked.
Stuff. They all light up now, but I don't have them hooked up at the moment.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah. No, I'm so glad that you have those. So we're here obviously for the series finale. One of the first things I wanted to ask you guys, because we've all watched our fair share of television over the years. Series finales can be tricky. There are some shows that really stick the landing. They're able to deliver something that feels special and provides some closure while also feeling like part of what's come before. That's certainly my aim for what we're doing here today. Then there are other finales that just kind of go off on a weird direction or drop the ball or don't pay off kind of what they've set up over the course of the show. So there's always a mix. You guys know the finale that I'm going to cite in a moment, but I wanted to toss it to you guys first. When you think of television series finales that you've experienced in your time, what are the ones that really stand out to you in either a positive or negative way? Steve, I know this might be tricky for you because often I know you don't watch the series finales because you like knowing that there's something out there you haven't seen.
I don't want to say I've never seen a season finale or a series finale, but
well, we'll toss it to Rich first.
Toss it to Rich. He'll cover all those westerns from the 1950s.
No, I'll say Cheers. When you spoke about this, Cheers, and MASH were two that I remember watching, and it was very, very touching on a heart level. Each of them, I think, to use your words, nailed the landing. They nailed the landing, and it put a smile on your face. So those are the first two that immediately came to mind.
Awesome. What about you, Bill?
I always have been very partial to the Seinfeld ending. I know some people don't like it. I love how it, had the cast of characters again during the trial scene, but then I also love them in jail having a conversation that was the first conversation they ever had in the show. And so I think that was a really nice self-referential thing. So I think they nailed the ending in some respects, although I think that's controversial to say.
Yeah, that one, people are very split on that one. I've never watched it, but I know of it. Another one that I know people have very strong feelings on is the Sopranos ending. Have any of you guys watched that?
Yeah.
I just
He
saw.
gets
I didn't watch the
killed.
show.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean that was.
I loved it. I thought it was a great, but I also didn't watch it live. And that's the thing. I can appreciate someone watching that live, right? And then it just cuts out and you think something's wrong with your TV. I could see how that could be frustrating, but going and knowing what it was, and Bill, to your point, it's like, yeah, he probably did get whacked. But the thing is, whether it was in that moment or at another point, or it was just something that was always hanging over him, either way, I think that ending allows you to kind of use your imagination. I always thought that was a great one. I know a lot of people don't feel that way. What about you, Steve? Any finales come to mind? Even just a series finale you watched, even if you don't have an opinion on it.
No, I mean there are a lot of
What
finales.
about West Wing?
You never watched it?
No, I did finally.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. There are a lot of shows that you love the show and then the finale is a bit of a disappointment or leaves you hanging. Like the Cheers one. I was a little disappointed with that one because I always loved the fact that Sam and Diane, they maybe shouldn't be together, but I like the fact that they almost got together. And then at the very end, spoiler.
It's okay. I think enough time has passed.
30 years later.
At the very end, when Sam's in the bar by himself and somebody knocks on the door, but he says, we're closed. I thought, wouldn't it be great if she came back, decided to turn around from California and come back to get him, and we leave it at that. So there was always that hope and the possibility that they did find happiness together. That's what I was hoping for with Cheers, and I was disappointed with that.
Well, you're ever the romantic, so I'm not surprised. Now, I've only ever seen episodes here and there. I never watched all of Cheers, but I am familiar with the ending. And from what little I know about the show, I feel like that was appropriate because wasn't the idea, and Rich, you could maybe speak to this, is the idea that the bar is the true love, right? And that's kind of that place where
that's the idea, but I guess I was hoping.
I know. Yeah. But the one that I want to cite, and you guys know where I'm going with this, there's more business for us to do with this later, but I want to share this first piece now, is Scrubs. So Scrubs ran for 9 seasons on NBC and then ABC. The 9th season was really its own thing. It was meant to be a spinoff, but it ended up being season 9 of the show, and we focus on med school. But really, the end of season 8 was the end of the show that we had watched for 8 seasons, and so much so that it was called My Finale. And we don't even need much in the way of setup other than to say that the main character, JD, played by Zach Braff, it was his last day at the hospital. He was going to work at a different hospital to be closer to his son. So he's taking his final walk through the halls of Sacred Heart. And he thinks to himself, and I shall quote, "Endings are never easy. I always build them up so much in my head, they can't possibly live up to my expectations, and I just end up disappointed. I'm not even sure why it matters to me so much how things end here. I guess it's because we all want to believe that what we do is very important, that people hang on to our every word. The truth is, you should consider yourself lucky if you even occasionally get to make someone, anyone, feel a little better. After that, it's all about the people that you let into your life. And as my mind drifted to faces I've seen here before, I was taken to memories of family, of coworkers, of lost loves, even of those who've left us. And as I rounded that corner, they all came at me in a wave of shared experience." That ending has always stood out to me and resonated, and we'll talk more about it later. But that's kind of what I've had in my head as I've kind of been reflecting on alternate realities one more time and thinking about what we could talk about here and specific things like when he talks about expectations and ending up disappointed. I mean, that tees up a perfect Otoism.
Keep your expectations low.
Exactly.
You'll never be disappointed.
Yeah. Hey, do you have any new Otoisms? Any new ones that you've cultivated over these past few years?
Well, human race sucks.
I feel like that was always was that not on the list before? I feel like that was.
Yeah, I think that falls under humans don't deserve self-rule.
Yeah, I guess so.
That'd be a sub-Otoism.
No, I don't. There are no new Otoisms. I mean, some of the changes have been that I do get cold. You know, it used to be 28 degrees. I could stand outside in jeans and a t-shirt, and I said it was a little cool out here. But now at 49 degrees, I say it's cold. I need a jacket.
But I think what had aided you in the past was that summer you absorbed so much heat. If you tried absorbing a lot, like maybe you need to absorb more, like you need to stand out in the sun for a longer period of time over the summer, and then that will allow you to withstand some colder temperatures. I'm just following the logic you've established for us.
Scientifically proven facts. Right?
I don't know if I remember hearing that.
Oh yeah, he once absorbed so much heat one summer that it kept him warm all winter.
Dissipated over the course of the winter.
See, he's not laughing because he knows it's true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pass.
And then the other thing I want to say too, when JD talks about how we all want to believe that what we do is so important and that everyone hangs on our every word, and the ultimate message of if you can just make one person's day a tiny bit better, you've accomplished a lot. And as podcast hosts, like I think about this, when I first started listening to podcasts like 15 years ago, I used to just sit or lie down and listen with my iPod. And I just consumed whatever I was listening to. Over the years, I've come to consume podcasts the way I think most people consume podcasts, i.e. while doing other things. So I know in terms of for myself and just hearing from people, it's like people listen to podcasts in the car, on the train, cooking, doing dishes, walking their dog, dropping a deuce, like whatever it is, people are doing other things, but the podcast keeps them company, right? And that's a beautiful thing. And I love that we've been able to do that. And yeah, I guess part of me is like, oh, it'd be great if everyone's like really poring over everything that we say. But it's like, no. But you know what? If every now and then something we say makes someone laugh, makes someone think, makes someone maybe a little emotional, makes someone introduce themselves to someone else at the comic shop that they think they might be able to strike up a conversation with. And I've heard from people that all of those things have happened. So that means a lot to me. And I think that's beautiful that we've been able to do that. But I think that the lesson here about again, just those small effects, those small impressions really, really count for a lot.
I'm speechless.
Everybody agrees. But Steve, it makes me think of something you said in the last documentary, and I've talked to you about this on the show before. I get emotional every time I see it when you talk about how you felt like you didn't make a mark on the world. But then when you saw everybody come together for the closing and for that final dinner, you realize you created a good memory for all of these people, and like that was enough. I get chills even as I'm saying that. It's a beautiful sentiment. I always get choked up when I see you talk about that.
Well, I guess for me, maybe it's because I'm a lot older since the store closed. We're both, again, our conversations used to be about Westerns and Sherlock Holmes movies, and now it's about Social Security, Medicare, and so-and-so died. So I guess now I look back and have a whole different perspective about what's coming, what's gone.
Can we take a break for a minute? I want to go get a smoke.
You talk about payoffs to stuff we've set up in years past. That would be great if all of a sudden Rich just lights one up.
Then it is a finale.
Yeah. I pull out Marlboro Lights.
No filter.
He lights one up and he goes, guys, listen, I really don't like comics. He's like, it's enough.
Well, he said that. You've said that, right? You've really lost interest in comics.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, my most enjoyable thing now is to work with Anthony and analyze something historical or something that was published conceivably 50 years ago. So I'm getting more out of that. The new stuff, I'm not the demographic they're selling to. But also, I don't have the camaraderie or the networking we did at the store. I can remember, Bill, times I'd come in, and I think you were in Fordham, and you guys would be talking about a hot book, and that would prompt me to get into it. But I would say, quite frankly, over the past, really since the new 52, incrementally, I've lost increasing interest each year.
Yeah, because even though Rich still goes to the conventions, and you did
Terrificon,
right, and when they had book club, would attend book club, driving all the way into Westchester to talk about comic books, right? It wasn't really for the comics; it was again for the camaraderie, and to even when you went to San Diego Con.
But that was like 2004.
Well, yeah, but you'd fly out there. You weren't interested in buying comic books. You'd fly all the way out there.
But it was a great time.
I agree.
To have-
That's why I was
to hang-
giving you the high sign. Yes.
To hang out with everybody, go out
Yes.
to dinner, that type of stuff. Because what did you do? You went through 50-cent books and you bought like a couple of 50-cent books, right? And that was about it.
And as you said, those are the most expensive
50
books. Yeah. Finally, he understands unit cost accounting.
That's right. I tell
Finally,
you, though, that was great.
total expenses divided by total books purchased.
Hey, speaking of Terrificon,
Oh, I know.
Bill, you owe me
I saw you look in, and I felt the eyes, like Superman's burning eyes on me.
Bill, you owe me
I know, I fucked
$45 for my Friday ticket.
I'll give it to you.
No.
I'll give it to you and more, whatever you need.
No, listen, it's all good. I know your heart was there. I know the intention was there, and it just didn't come together. But in the first episode of this For All Seasons event, you were on here. We were talking. We had grand plans, and then just things didn't come together. You weren't able to fly out for it. I decided to bail because you were the main reason I was going. But Rich and some of the other guys, they still ended up going.
Yeah, I was surprised that you didn't go, even though Bill wasn't coming in.
I just love Bill so much.
I know. I love you too, guys. But yeah, I fucked that up so bad. And I apologize immensely to all of you guys.
Well, let's plan the next one now. I'm just kidding.
Well,
Fool me once.
I think it's probably
you said that in your talk with Rich. You said that you're like, I learned a lesson. I feel really bad that I betrayed your trust on this. And I would never let that happen again.
Here's the only lesson I learned, and this I should have known this in the first place, right? Like, I didn't need to go ahead and buy my tickets to the convention until I knew you had booked your flight, right? And that's the thing. Like in the future, if this is something that we want to plan again, I would just wait. And once you have those tickets in hand, then I'll go ahead. Because especially that show, it's a fairly big show, but it's not like, oh, the tickets were going to sell out. So I could have waited. So you keep the $45, but it's all good. Thankfully, I was able to sell my Saturday and Sunday tickets to Drew. And Rich and Tom, they went, they drove up there, they shared a room, they had a great weekend.
And there was 12 of us for dinner. So you initiated something that was very well received and well enjoyed.
You made that happen, even though you weren't there. You made that happen.
Yeah, yeah. I wish I was there, but I'm glad you guys were able to get together. That's for sure. And I think the intent to do that in the future is there too. So we'll figure it out.
Well, I'm just glad you didn't kidnap Phil Noto the way you wanted to down in Baltimore one time.
He's in the back. he lives here now.
Yeah, he's got an ankle chain. I opened the window. I opened the window.
He hasn't left that closet in years. Actually, that was the first meeting with Phil Noto was at that Philadelphia con.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue where you're sharing that story. Stories, right? One of the things we've done over the course of this show, we've told our favorite alternate reality stories. And now, as we're here for our final episode, the question I want to pose for all of us, what are those iconic, indelible stories that we think of when we think of alternate realities? Stories that either encapsulate sort of the entirety of the experience, or it might just be one moment that was just funny, surprising, infuriating, whatever it is. But what are those stories that we always go back to? And I'm going to ask each of us to share whatever comes to mind. And here's the thing. I don't care if we've told them on the show before. I don't care if you've told them on the show before. It's the last episode. And if something means that much that it's top of mind and is the first thing that we think of, it's worthy of a retelling. So Steve, I'll let you go last so we can let that I see him getting nervous as I'm saying it. So it's like, take your time.
There's so many stories and experiences, nothing encapsulate. And in fact, the only thing that I probably encapsulate are the bad things. And that's what, whenever I think of the store, and like New York Comic Con was just this last weekend, and I'm watching videos on
He's
YouTube.
getting angry right now.
I'm watching,
getting angry.
People walking around and they're focusing on the artist alley and the different dealers and all stuff. And I'm thinking, thank God I'm not there. Thank God we didn't have to set up a table. So to the idea, again, my admiration for the people who are doing it is boundless, because it's like I wouldn't have the energy to even walk around there anymore, much less the interest. But my stories as far as the store, it would not be, oh, this was a funny experience, or this is a great purchase, or I really miss this guy, or I really hate that guy. It's just overall, it's like, thank God I'm not there anymore. So I'll let you go first.
So was that the preview for him going last?
Well, I don't want to build it up so that you think, okay,
that?
And we'll have the funniest story at the very
coming.
end.
Yeah. Was that, give me a few minutes to think it through? Let me collect my thoughts.
God, it's warm in here.
Take off your Yale shirt.
Yeah, you can take your sweatshirt off if you want.
I can't. My arms are covered with poison ivy.
Oh.
Yeah, this is no more healing factor. There's a new change.
Oh
But
my!
look at-
My goodness!
Yeah.
Jesus.
For my whole life, I thought I was not allergic to poison ivy.
I guess that healing factor.
It doesn't
kinda
work
worn out.
anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's falling apart.
Yeah, that's
It's like Old Man Logan.
Those are the changes in the past 8 years. So
Okay. Well, we'll go, and if you want to share anything out of 30 years, if there's any story, like one thing that you're like, oh, I remember that interaction. That's great.
oh, I remember the interactions more or less.
Well, that's what,
Yeah,
I mean. Yeah, like that's
but none of them are going to say, oh, this was the best or this is the funniest.
it doesn't have to be the best or the funniest. It's what you think of, like what when we like, again, when I say like alternate reality stories, whatever it is, it doesn't need to be a heartwarming thing. And with you, I wouldn't expect it to be. I'm assuming you'll tell the story about the guy on the last day who was haggling for
Oh,
healing.
that was the best day. That was the best day ever.
Tell your daughter daddy doesn't love her. I mean, that's fine.
That
Bill
encapsulates
was great.
store.
Rick,
I'm so glad I was there for that.
Bill, would you like to go first?
Sure. So, all right. So to preface this, I don't know if I have a memory that's just shot, but things in life that I encounter always like remind me of something from a TV show like Seinfeld or Arrested Development. So something will happen. I'm like, oh, that's like this episode in this. And so nowadays, alternate realities has become in my mind like a TV show that I used to be a part of, I guess. And so like there's things that I encounter or I do that remind me of certain things. So one thing that's kind of funny that I happen to remember all the time, because this happens all the time. Back in the days when we used to go to Pizza and Brew a lot, we would go back to the store and it would be a race to see who can go to the bathroom first. Right. So Pizza and Brew always used to like rip all of us up. And so, Drew would go to the bathroom. And I remember one time we were at this store. Drew was in the bathroom. We were with Doug Dosher and his wife, Marie, who left us recently. And, Doug said, Marie, when Drew gets out of the bathroom, say, did everything come out okay? Right. And for whatever reason, he comes out of the bathroom, she says it, and he had nothing to say for the first time. He was just like caught off guard. And nowadays, every time somebody goes to the bathroom, I say, did everything come out okay? And I think of that moment all the time. Sorry. Weird memory. There it is.
I love in the series finale here. It's like the story that stands out most about Drew taking a dump.
Sorry, Drew.
I think if he hears this, he'll appreciate that. That's
But the way she
fantastic.
said it, did everything come out okay? She was so friendly and nice, and he had nothing to say.
That's the thing, man. Like when you talk about these stories, it's always there's some sort of like a X factor or secret sauce to it, because if it had been Brian O'Day saying that to him, not as funny, right? And he probably would have had a comeback to that. But it was that it was coming from Marie. Like that's what makes that story. That's what makes that story. And yeah, we miss her so much. We talked about her, when she passed. And that's, again, we've talked about this. One of the things over the course of these 8 years, it's like we have lost, people from our group or retailers at other stores. So, our heart goes out to all of them. But I'm glad that she, not the most elegant story perhaps, but I'm glad that she factored into that story.
There you go.
I love it. Rich?
I'll think of some others.
I thought you were going to tell the story of Pizza and Brew. Is like Drew ordering the chicken parm for a bunch.
He used to take that down all the time.
Yeah.
It was
It was
impressive.
a family-sized chicken parm dinner, and he would eat
Like
the whole
3
thing.
or 4 chicken cutlets.
Four
Yeah.
cutlets.
Yeah.
And even the waiter said, I was impressed.
Yeah.
All of our stories
We
are
all-
about food going in or coming out of Drew.
Drew, you're missed.
Rich?
Okay, I've got 2, short one, and another different one. So the 2 things that immediately come to my mind, one is with Bill. I remember one time I went to the store, and Brandon and Bill and maybe 5 or 6 other guys were there, and it was a day in the summer. I walk into the store, and I'm wondering what the hell's going on. And then Bill and Brandon tear ass from the front door all the way out to the back door. Apparently,
I know this story.
Jeff Wong and Metal, I think they had a disagreement. They wanted to figure out who could run around the store or the buildings faster. And I think they each started from a different, they went different ways. But I remember these guys nearly trampled over me, but they were giggling and laughing, and they just running like hell to get to the back door to witness this. And you guys were just giggling. It was infectious.
Who won?
Yeah.
Was
I
it
don't
Metal?
remember.
Was it Metal?
I think it was Metal.
See, I'm
I'm pretty sure it was metal.
I'm thinking of a different race with Jeff Wong.
There was,
How many were there?
There was a time when I guess Brandon, remember there was
Is this the hat?
Remember that fire
hat.
chief's hat
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
light and the woo 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 woo, and I guess Brandon said, "I'll give you a pack of cards or something if you run around the building." And then there was this friend of his, I can't remember his name.
Gormer Pyle.
Gomer, was it Gomer Pyle?
That's what we called him.
Well, he would run behind Jeff saying, "Hey Jeff, where's the fire?" And they would do that all the way around the building. He had all the people at Casa Maya sitting there outdoor at the table,
Placing bets.
and he'd come around and say, "Hey Jeff, where's the fire? Hey Jeff, where's the fire?" And it just made Brandon so happy that he was happy to give him a pack of cards. That's what I thought when you were talking about when you talk about race. Which I guess we got Jeff to do lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the other story, I do want to share this. You're going to remember it once I start. My first ever visit to the store, ever. You know where I'm going with this? Okay, so I think it was midwinter break in February. It was definitely 93 because I had been working in California for about 11 months. I came back home for Christmas, but I did not go to the store then. I got called back from California, and I had to go to meetings down at 23rd Street, our corporate headquarters. Now, this is February. My parents had bought me a new suit for Christmas. So I really dressed up. I'm going to get a new project. We had meetings in some of the more elegant conference rooms, lunch, anything. I was really, really jazzed. Everything's brand new. New shirt and tie, new suit. Anyway, I go into the store. I stood there easily for about 40 minutes, 2 feet away from Steve, and he didn't know who I was, right? And while I'm there trying to get his attention, some customer wanted to buy an autographed book from the top shelf. And Steve starts telling the guy, how do you know? How do you know the real creator really signed this? Anybody could have signed that. And I'm thinking, boy, this guy, I know he's ethical and principled, but I don't think Brandon would say that if the guy wanted to pay $9 for an autographed book. But you were trying to tell the guy, are you sure? Do you know what his signature looks like? Totally trying to dissuade the guy from buying it, which I thought was maybe, you know what? I'll show them how principled I am and they'll come back.
No.
But,
No,
you were surprised when you saw me.
But you eventually had to tap him on the shoulder, or
Yeah, I had to turn him. You know, Kevin Halstead was there. He was trying to get your attention so you'd see me. You were just in your own world.
Right.
But finally, I had to like hit him on the shoulder and go, "Hey, Steve."
Who's this old man?
We need that Liam Neeson soundbite from Batman Begins. You never learn to mind your surroundings.
I don't remember it.
You remember something about Batman Begins, though.
Do I?
When Terrence spoiled the Liam Neeson twist for you before you had seen the movie.
Was that Batman Begins?
Yeah. It was.
I will say the only Batman Nolan trilogy that Liam Neeson was in was Batman Begins.
No, that was the one. I mean, spoiler alert, that he's Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, he was on the phone at the back of the store, like by the statues, and you were up front and you hadn't seen it yet. And he was talking to someone on the phone. He was like, I can't believe Liam Neeson was Ra's al Ghul.
Wait, who was this that was on the phone?
Terrence.
Big Terrence.
T-Bone.
Oh, that's a name I haven't thought about.
I always called him T-Bone.
Yeah, big fella.
Yeah. Nice guy. Very nice guy. I still remember that time he had so much stuff on hold and he came in and he cleared it out. And it was like over $1,000. And he was on the phone with his bank transferring the amount of money that he needed to his checking account so he can use his debit card. And I mean, he was transferring the amount to the penny. He's like, I need 1,121 and 54 cents. It's like, and it was such a big. He hugged me when he was done. That's my main two memories with him. That and the Batman Begins. Look at this. You don't even remember it. So in the moment, you were so enraged. Now it's like, whatever.
I remember Doug Desher spoiling a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I spoiled.
You
one.
spoiled it for Prem, right? For the Buffy episode.
Oh yeah, with the John Ritter one. But then you spoiled the James Bond one for him, right?
Yeah. But in all fairness, James Bond had been out like 3 months. I kind of thought you knew.
But yeah, no, I love that story about your first. Here's the thing. Look, for whatever people say about the Clark Kent disguise, he just put on a suit. You didn't even notice him.
Who is this guy?
What did you? Do you remember? Like, what was when you finally saw him? What was your reaction?
I really don't remember.
Thanks. Thanks, pal. Anybody got any matches?
That's right.
I'll get you a carton of cigarettes for Christmas.
What about you, Steve? Have any stories floated to the surface here over these past few minutes?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of good memories, a lot of good people. I think about them. Again, I think we touched on it last time we spoke. It's like, I do think about these people, and wonder how they're doing. Whenever they post photographs of their kids, it's like, I remember before they got married. So, now, I watch the babies grow up and now they're in college, now they have jobs and all that. It's kind of neat to see. I mean, you post pictures of your son all the time, and it's like, you're trying to make him into a fighter pilot. I don't understand why we go to these airplane museums all the
He's
time.
really into World War II. That was all him. Yeah.
But
That was all him.
But yeah, good memories. I mean, I still remember the bad guys, the ones who really annoyed me.
The ones that left you in the lurch.
Oh, there are too many of those. I can hardly remember them now. I still have their folders. Because I still have the old file cabinets and those hanging green folders. I never took out the label, the names, and all that, so I can look at it every now and then. I say, oh, I hate this guy, I hate that guy. But
Healthy. That sounds good.
But there are also the folders of everybody else, and every now and then I feel like I'll take this and I'll mail it to the person so they have something, a little souvenir of their time with us. But I mean, all the stories we bring up, the rabbi collection, and all the people who have come and gone in our lives, I still I think about it, but it's not. It's like I guess in my head, after all these years, I remember when Brandon left us, he had almost cut ties. I mean, there were personal ties, but he more or less cut ties with the store. He went off to be, what was it, law school, not just law school, but writing for DC, writing for...
Yeah, he was an editor for a while and then a writer, yeah.
And so it's like, I think, and again, I haven't talked to him about it, but I also got the impression that for him, alternate realities was a part of his life way back when. And he has an experience he had, but he's moved on with his life to other things. Drew, even now, it's like, for all that love of statues, he was a moderator of the statue forum for Bowen, and his collection of There was a period where he sold his car because he moved into the city and didn't need a car. So he took all that money. He bought a huge Silver Age collection from that dealer in Connecticut. Really some high grade, nice stuff. But with Drew, his interests changed. And so when he decided he didn't want it anymore, he was glad he had it. He sold it. He took that money and bought something else. Might have been statues then after that. But then he didn't want the statues anymore, so he got rid of that. Now again, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I get the impression that he's into Billy, maybe you know, was it the F1 trading
He's into
cards?
those cards.
Yeah.
I don't talk to Drew nearly as much as I used to, and that's my fault. But yeah, I see him posting all the time about those rare
racing
cards of racing
drivers.
cards. Yeah.
And I said, where the hell? I mean, his interest had
That's out of
gone
left
into the what do you call those not robot controlled? What do you
Remote control cars,
Remote
RC
control,
cars.
yeah.
Yeah.
For a while, and he was buying these expensive vehicles to fly around and drive around, but it seemed to get rid. He sold all that stuff, and he's just buying all these rare cards of race car drivers, which I had no idea he was ever into it. But it's almost like the whole comic book world is the past. Well, he still appreciates all that stuff. I think he still has the prints and lots of pages of art and stuff. But we've all moved on to the next thing, and I guess that's the way I kind of look at it too. I mean, to talk about the memories, I still appreciate this stuff, but I have no interest in going to New York Comic Con. No interest in buying any more of this stuff, and it's not that I don't. Yeah,
But there are times you've called me and you've told me, hey, oh yeah, has this. I thought I'm going to buy it.
it's tempting. It's like being a
addict.
a nicotine addict, right?
See, now he knows. I deliberately put on totally clean clothes, so the aroma of the
we
smoke.
can't smell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate. Even today, I looked at some stuff and I said, "Gee, it's only $15." But then I have to sit back and say, "Do I really need it? What am I going to do with this?"
No, and listen, everything that you say, it makes sense. And look, one of the things we've been talking about, especially from that longer Halloween run of episodes that we did, and in particular over these last few episodes of For All Seasons, of the extent to which any of us individually keep in touch, and really the lack of kind of those big group gatherings. And I don't necessarily want to dwell on that because I feel like we've talked about it, and I'm kind of more curious to talk about in a little bit that, Rich, you got to put that bottle of water down. Crackling. Thank you. I'm just waiting until we get to like the final emotional moments of the show here where we're all like sobbing and I just hear anyway. Thank you. But I don't want to dwell on that so much because I think I kind of want to talk a little bit more about the quote unquote, if this is a TV show, the quote unquote supporting cast, like the customers who came, not so much the core crew and whether or not we get together. We've talked about that a lot. But on that note, what I do want to say is, not to be a cliche, but right, the saying about some people enter your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, right? And I've been thinking about that a lot, especially in the context of this For All Seasons event and the seasons of alternate realities and everything. And I think the people who I've continued to have the most contact with, like Rich, but you most of all, but Bill as well to an extent, guys like Mike San Gregorio or Ralph Puma, because we still have new business. Like we've been doing these other podcasts together and we've been talking about them and getting together to do those recordings. And so and I don't want to say there would be no reason to talk otherwise, but what I've learned, and Steve, you've been talking about this for years, and you were right. You were right all along, where when you're talking about former classmates, coworkers, people from the store, when you don't have that regular contact, you're not in the same space, forced to be in the same space, right? It does require a level of effort to keep in touch. And I think when you don't necessarily have that new business, that ongoing conversation, what it becomes more when you do talk, it's more catching up. And that was the experience I had when we had that dinner over Memorial Day weekend. And it was lovely. It was nice to see everyone, but it was just a lot of, again, what have you been up to, this and that. It's fine, but it's a different flavor than what it used to be, where it was like we're in it and we're having these ongoing adventures. And I think when it does kind of become that catch-up type of relationship, I think it requires even more effort to pick up the phone and to call. Not that it's not enjoyable to have those conversations, but I think what we've experienced it, like it's just harder to muster to do it. I mean, Rich is probably the exception to that because he has made, I think, far and away the most effort out of anyone in our group to keep in touch and to call people. But I think for most of us, that's kind of what happens. And I think what I've come to terms with is, that's okay. I think that's a natural. And from the beginning of this run of episodes, what I've been saying is, just trying to focus on how grateful I am to have had that time with those people, even if I do recognize it never, I think could be that again, but I'm grateful that we had it. And I think it is kind of that natural. And I think it was a season of time, although like you three are lifetime people and certainly others Drew performed our wedding ceremony. Like, there are people who are lifetime people, but then there are other either relationships or types of relationships or just that time that I think it was a season in our lives. And as much as we can kind of fall into that, I don't want to say trap, but it's easy to kind of feel sad, right, that it's past. But mostly I think it's important to be grateful that it happened at all. That's what I've come to after all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the best way to look at it. Because, there's, again, it's the you're not a smoker, are you situation, right? If comes to mind, Akara, remember her? Yeah, it's like, even after we closed, and Cara and I went to take a look at her collection once in Connecticut, but she went off to California and did her thing. But at the time, it's like I thought, if she met Evan and married Evan, I'd be perfectly happy with that. It would have been a whole different world, a whole different reality, an alternate reality as it would be. But and there's still, again, still people that you see along the way and say, hey, how you doing? But but everybody's got that. Everybody's got their core, and a lot of other octopus arms out there. But we were lucky to experience it. And was it Joe Rudland? I don't know if you remember him. He posted a quote from Confucius this morning, which I thought was actually pretty good. And I can't remember, of course, but it has to do with everybody has two lives, and the second one starts when you realize how much time you have left, or something like that. So I thought it was very, very profound. So I think that's where I am, and hopefully you are, because we're old.
This guy loves to have me like a half a step away from the grave. All of our Saturday talks.
You're basically dead already. Your nephew said something similar, didn't he?
Yes, but not with the tenacity that Steve has. And all of our calls were up on current events in terms of who died, right? Keith Giffen.
Lara Parker just passed away. Remember her from Dark Shadows?
No, I don't.
Okay. Suzanne Summers? She just died.
Yes.
It's every day. It's like somebody, and the difference for us is that we know a lot of these. We grew up watching television or listening to their music or something like that.
And that's
it's not
probably why some of them are dying, because
they're that old.
We watched them 60 years ago.
Yeah, but it's like when we were kids, when we were like your age, and you said, "Oh, this politician died or this celebrity died." It's like, yeah, I know he made movies in the 50s or the 60s, or had a TV show in the 60s, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot to you. But when somebody who like more or less we grew up with,
passage of time. Bill and I have talked about how we're past the age now that you were when you opened the store.
Oh, yeah. We're older than Aunt May.
Are you looking up that Facebook quote?
I'm looking up who died in our high school class. I wanted to see if he knows him. Because Rich...
Nobody needs to know that.
No, I won't name names.
Specific.
I won't name names. It's just that Rich Roney doesn't even remember going to White Plains High School.
I went to Stepanek.
Hey, listen, he remembers not smoking, and so that's something.
Do you know, if I had answered that question differently, I might not be sitting here today.
I know.
Gene Cahill might be sitting here.
Who's Gene Cahill?
There you go. He's the Rich Roney of Earth 2. He's the Rich Roney of Fat Moose Comics.
Oh, okay. I just
I've heard about this guy.
Yeah.
I just want to show Rich the name and see if he remembers the name.
All right, we got to keep this moving along here. What are we doing?
What's going on?
Way to grind this to a halt while we wait for you to pull up obituaries to show Rich.
Where are you looking for this info?
I'll show them later. Okay.
Okay.
No, it's a game we play.
And do you guys understand now why the calls are a little less frequent?
Oh, I want to. We have a few follow-ups that I want to get to, but while we're talking stories, I want to share mine. I have 3, but they're mostly quick. I promise. So the first one is one that, I mean, never fails to make me laugh, and it doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing, it always makes me laugh. I mean, so much so, a few weeks ago, I came to bed and Steph was already asleep, and it popped into my head, and I had to stifle my laughter because I didn't want to wake her up. So there was this day where you, Steve, you were sitting up front at the table at the front of the store holding court, as you were wont to do, and this guy came in, and he didn't have a reserve number, but he was semi-regular. He was familiar enough face, a little eccentric maybe. And you'll know as soon as I give the quote, you'll know where this is going. And he goes, "Anything new today?" And you said perfectly innocently and truly, because look, it's a comic shop. There's always new stuff coming in, and even if not, there's always something new for you to discover. And you go, "Always something new." And he looks at you, and as cheerily as possible, he goes, "You're a bitch."
But he said it in a nice way.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a nice way.
I don't remember this.
And what's so funny to me about this is the juxtaposition of the cheeriness with which he said it versus the harshness of the language, coupled with the word choice. Not that we should use that word to refer to women, but typically, historically, that word is not usually used toward a man. Like if he had said to you, "You're a dick," it wouldn't have been as funny. It still would have been funny, though, if he said it in that friendly way. But the combination of the cheeriness and the word choice, "You're a bitch," to this day, man, like it was so random. I love it. Do you remember that guy?
I don't remember his name, but I remember him. He was always a pretty cheerful fellow.
Yeah.
You know, collected the Star Wars bus, I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, Oleg. You know how Facebook posts up people you might know?
He's on Facebook?
Oleg came up.
Did you friend him?
Wow.
No.
Why?
Because I'm Brandon Montclair. I've moved on away.
I mean, Facebook friendship is not the overly burdensome commitment. Oh, Oleg.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But he's still around.
No tax.
Yeah.
No tax. But anyway, "You're a bitch" is number one. Not my number one story, but the first one that I'll share. The second one, when we talk about stories that I think just encapsulate a wide range of experiences, even beyond the store, this one comes up. And look, when we talk about kind of customer complaints and human nature and humanity and all of that, one thing that's been very interesting is I've moved beyond the walls of alternate realities. It's like I've been working at my law school now for over a decade. I've been in admissions. I'm a faculty advisor. I teach the law students. One of the things I'm finding is that some of the frustrations that we felt towards customers, they apply elsewhere. I'll leave it at that. But the story that comes to mind is one day we were preparing for a sale and I think you or one of us had made up a flyer, and I was walking through the store putting up the signs on the walls, and one of our customers, Bill E., not this Bill, a different Bill, was in there, and we were basically on a parallel track. Like we were walking through the aisle together, more or less. He was looking at the books and I was putting up the signs, and we were chatting as we often did. And again, I'm talking like side by side for a good 15, 20 minutes as I'm taping up these signs and he's looking at the books. And at the end of all of this, he goes up to the counter and he pays, and you're behind the counter, and he goes to you, "Hey, are you doing any sales soon?" And I think you and I both looked at each other and kind of had a similar reaction. Like, have you not seen like all of the signs like literally going up around you? That one always stood out to me. And I guess that kind of goes back to that comment that I was referring to at the beginning of the episode of like, you guys have a podcast? It's like, you can't, I guess the point is, and I don't even say this to I'm not putting anyone down. It's just like, you can't take anything for granted, right? As much as you think you're delivering a certain message, you are presenting certain information, it is not always registering with people. But that one always stood out. Do you remember that?
Similar to the
I remember that.
similar to the store, the door of the store. People would be knocking on a Wednesday, and Steve had that sign saying that we don't open until 2:00 or whatever. And you would just be like, "Read the sign."
Or the time that Steve was the sign when he hurt his back and he was on the ground, people just kept stepping over him to get to their comics.
That I didn't mind so much. You know?
No?
Yeah, to me, it's like, okay, come on in. I'm okay. It's like, but no, that sign was something, because inevitably they'd knock on the glass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was that one time the guy was bleeding, needed me to call 911. That was great.
I know, every now and then. But
Yeah. So glad we had the sign.
so those are the two. You guys didn't have much of a reaction, but to me, those are the more humorous ones. But then I guess the more heartwarming one for me is the white collar sale that we did we did it for 3 years, but that first year in particular, it was that week between Christmas and New Year's. And that year, Steve, this was the era when you and your now wife, Ann, were long distance. And I think this year she came into town. So you were in the area, but you were off spending time with her. And so Sean, Tom, and myself, the boys, we were running the shop. And Tom and I had this idea to do this white collar sale. We were fans of the television show, but we had this idea to wear shirts and ties and vests and fedoras, right? And then we would have a sale. And this was, I think now it's different. I feel like now publishers put out new content during that week, but this was during the period of time where there was nothing that week between Christmas and New Year's. And we thought, all right, this would be a good way to get people in and drum up some business and all that. And it was such a fun time. I feel like the holidays, when I think of the seasons of alternate realities, I always think back to summers because that's when I spent the most time working there. And I think of the holidays because I know that can be a tricky time for people and sometimes it's not the happiest time. But it was always, for me, a cheerful time at the store. Brian Claudio's wife would make cookies and bring them in, a lot of well wishes. It was a fun time. It was also, Bill can identify with this. It was a break from school, so there was that going on as well. So it was just always a fun time generally. And then that week where, we were really steering the ship and we had this idea and it did well. We were so proud, like when you came in and we handed you like a wad of cash and we're like, look, we did this. And people coming in, I know there were they were said what's going on? And they probably left and like, what's the matter with those guys? But you know what? We were those walking signs and they were like, what's going on? Like, it's the white collar sale. And it was fun. And it really, when we talk about the seasons and all of that, I have to give a shout out to Sean and Tom. It's like, I haven't had much contact with them in recent years. I ran into Sean at Aw Yeah once, probably a couple of years ago at this point. And then we exchanged a couple of texts after that. Tom, he did a Patreon episode of mine about a year and a half ago, and we haven't spoken since. In both cases, though, at least as far as I know, there's no reason for that. There's no bad blood. With Tom, I could be in his gunny sack for all I know. But as far as I know, there's no specific reason for it. It's just what we've been talking about, maybe not having new business to discuss and being preoccupied in different places in our life and all that stuff. But the thing is, I so cherish that version of that friendship with them. And that's what was really in full force at that time. And I spent so much time with those two guys individually and as a trio. And again, part of me is like, oh man, it's a bummer that we don't have that now. But again, I'm grateful that we had it at all. And I guess I gravitate towards that story. Sean, we kind of roped into it. I don't think he was that into the idea of dressing up, but he still went along. But like, it was a fun time. And I look back on that really as one of those favorite memories and really kind of capturing the spirit of, working there and hanging out with those guys and having that event.
And for one of those days, I dressed up. I had gray slacks, white shirt, the tie. I sure as hell didn't have the fedora, but I remember just the excitement. All four of us were dressed and it prompted questions and it was just a lot of energy, exhilarating energy. So I share that memory of that time. And I think exactly what you said. Ann came into town. There was another time, I think, when you flew, you went to Las Vegas or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But very exciting times.
I thought you were going to talk about when I went to Japan. And I guess
the Steve's out of town sale?
Steve's out of town, so everything's on sale or something like that, right? But the beauty of it is that it was years later that I'm getting rid of a pile of papers and I see the sign and Anthony's standing right in front of me. I said, what the hell is this? And he was so glad that he happened to be there when I found the sign that you guys hid for me to find years later. And that's the kind of memories I have.
I know. We were a fan. That was, I not to pat ourselves on the back, but that the amount of patience that required. That was one of those things where it's just like, hey, one day he'll find this. And you did. The fact that I was there and I have a picture of it. I've posted it on social media before. Maybe I'll post it again. But yeah, that was great. Okay, you were such a good sport about it too. But yeah, but I remember having that conversation with you, Bill, where it was just like, let's just hide this.
Let's hide it. I think that sale was when it was over spring break, I want to say. And I took off spring break, came to New York to work at the store for a week. That was my spring break from grad school. Yeah.
That's the thing, man. Anytime, we've talked about this, but it's like anytime you had some free time, that's where you went. That's where you went. So one other question in this kind of segment of the episode here. this is the end of my comic shop history, the podcast. But one of the things I've been thinking about is, has my personal comic shop history drawn to a close? Because I've had a couple of experiments now with Spider's Web and with my two local stores of trying to have a pull list and go every week. And I did it for a little while, and then it didn't take. And I don't know, maybe if my son gets really into it and that becomes part of our routine, I could see then my comic shop history, having a rebirth. But otherwise, it's hard to say. And we've all touched on this, but I do want to toss that to each of you guys. It's like, as far as, again, your personal comic shop histories, where are you now? And like, where do you see yourselves going, if anywhere? Or is that really kind of it? Like, what about you, Bill?
It's the only time I'm reading comics now, Anthony, is when I'm doing an assignment for the podcast. And I don't know how proud I am of that statement, but my reading now has been completely relegated to that. I just don't have, I guess, the space in my life at the moment to do that routine, the ritual every week, go to a comic shop, pull books, read them. And beyond that, when I do go, I don't ever see anything that just draws me in like it used to. And this might go back to what Rich was saying, where maybe it was because all of us were together, and we were talking about it, and we were getting excited about it. But, I just don't have it anymore. And actually, I'm not even that excited about it anymore. I'm more excited about the older books. And so, like, Steve, when you're posting pictures of Silver Age books from that collection you had just bought, I'm like, wow, look at those covers. Look at these books he has. That's what's getting me going. Nothing new, that's for sure.
See, I see on Facebook, on different comic book groups, they post a page, no context, but just a page of something. And a lot of I guess Dr. Doom is a big focus on what's going on nowadays in comics. And it's you read that one page and it says, this is interesting. If it weren't so difficult to get back into it, I'd love to just be able to buy that one set or that one series to read that. Or Alan Davis came out. He did an Avengers Time After Time.
War Across Time with Paul Levitz.
Yeah.
Paul Levitz wrote it.
I love Alan Davis art. And so it's like I got the trade. Couldn't get the individual issues. So I got the trade, but I haven't read it. And I realize now that I'm at that point where I'll end up buying it because I know it's good stuff. And one day, I've said that for decades, that I'll sit down to read it. It's I'll love it, but I don't have the time. And I guess that's why I don't collect anymore. And there's no comic book stores near me anymore.
I know, because you were going to fairly recently. I mean, went fairly regularly when you lived here.
Yeah. But I'm surprised you don't go there because they're relatively close to you.
They are. So it's interesting with both the experiments that I conducted. With Spider's Web,
that's far.
Location was an issue. It was a little bit of a hike, and parking was challenging and all that. But with now it's closer to me. When I lived in White Plains, it wasn't that far, but a little bit more of a hike. Now I'm relatively close. It's about 15 minutes. There was a lot of construction going on around there for a while. And parking,
it's all done.
Yeah, it's all done now. I know. So the thing is, like, All Yeah is one of our sponsors. We love All Yeah. Friends with Mark. I feature them on the show and on the podcast. I would recommend anyone to go there. So this is not a critique of the store, but I don't know. I think you have a different relationship with Mark, and you go and you talk to him for a long time and all of that.
Not long. I can't hang out that long. I don't have the time. But I mean, that store is packed full. I mean, you thought we were packed, and they have that family camaraderie. Yeah. Yesterday was the blood drive that they had, and tonight is their Halloween party for adults. So they're closing early at 6:00 if you want to go there for a drink. You can hang out with those guys, and they're great guys.
No, they are.
Pellerito, Franco, all those guys.
And I've brought Milo there a few times, and he had fun. Now he's in this stretch where anytime, like, do you want to go to the comic shop? He's like, no. But so it goes in waves. But that's the thing, and that's the X factor here. I think if this becomes a bigger thing for him, I could see myself getting back into the routine. But I think there are a couple of things. One, just in terms of the comics themselves, I am still reading, but I don't necessarily have the drive to buy and collect and store new issues per se. I'm pretty content reading a lot digitally as a consideration of both time and cost and space mostly. And I will continue to periodically buy trades, but I guess part of it is I'm not necessarily chomping at the bit to be buying new books all the time. So that's one side of it. my time is more limited, right? As opposed to alternate realities days where it's like, oh, I'll just go and spend the whole afternoon there. It's like, I don't have that ability now. It's like, we're spending the whole afternoon doing this, and my wife is very graciously taking care of the child and the dog upstairs. But like, normally that's not something that I really have the flexibility to do. And the other thing too is I'm sure I really haven't partaken in the events that Mark hosts. So maybe when you go to that there's a big group of people there. Maybe other times I've just gone at the wrong time of day. I don't know. But in my experience, and I've gone a bunch of times, like I've never really, again, I'm not saying it never happens. I've just never been there where there's been that kind of conversation that we used to have at alternate realities. And so it's been kind of more the experience, like, yeah, some pleasant, chit chat, right? You get your stuff and you go. But I've just not had that experience of being like, of just being there and pulled into this kind of conversation. And so it's been a little bit more, transactional, I suppose, in that sense. So, but I'm finding that I know a big reason I found to psychoanalyze myself, why I do so much of this podcasting is like that has kind of replaced what the store was for me. Like for anyone who's like, why is this guy podcasting? He podcasts all the time. Like what's missing in his life? It's those conversations. It's like, that's why I think we have these 2-hour conversations about Superman, right? Because it's a little different flavor than what we used to do at the store because it's so much more, focused and sustained when we're podcasting. But I think I've kind of, satiated that need through the podcast. But maybe that's also part of why I'm not hanging out at the comic shop, as much, because it's like I have an outlet for it now. So it's a long-winded way of saying it's like, yeah, it just hasn't like clicked into place for me where it's like, okay, like this is now my new routine.
That's a good analysis. I think the same thing with me with Facebook. I have no contact with the rest of the human race except for Facebook. So I know what's going on with people's, found personal lives and stuff for those who bother to post. But I guess it sort of has replaced any kind of a face-to-face relationship that I used to have every day with a variety of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I know I always cite these two stores, but I don't know if we moved to North Carolina and I was near Acme Comics. It's like, yeah, could I see myself going in there as kind of more of a routine, checking in with Lord Retail? I've been there where I've seen like the sea of people and, maybe getting their take on what they're reading and kind of, using that as part of like podcast discussions and stuff like that. Yeah, Anthony, I could see that. Or Fat Moose.
Could I? Yeah, I was going to use that as
I know. I saw you chomping at the bit and I knew you wanted to go to Fat Moose and I was getting there, man. Fat Moose is the other example. Rich?
Poor Rich, you bit his head off.
I love you, Rich.
That's okay.
And put down that water too.
Yeah. I guess I had quite the poker face.
I'm sorry.
But the only place I've seen, and pre-COVID, there were more comic book stores in different parts of Jersey. Now there's maybe 4. There might be 3 because I think one of them's going to, close. But the only place I've ever seen to rival the spirit and the way we would hang out and talk is Sean's place, Fat Moose. I've gone in there on a Wednesday night, and it's just like being thrown right back to AR. On a Wednesday night, there's 10 or 12 or 14 people. They get pizza. They socialize. They talk about current books. And it's the only thing I've seen to match just the enthusiasm and the cultural dynamic. But there are other stores, you used the word transactional a while ago. There's other stores I go to where there's no conversation in the place. It's you buy your books, you're out. I will say for myself, my purchasing has really, really, really diminished. But there are certain times I would say like every 6 weeks or so, I got to go into a store and just walk around. I'm like an addict, and all of a sudden I break down and I got to go walk around and see the books on the wall and see what's new. And I kind of need that fix, so to speak.
I mean, it sounds like out of all 4 of us, you have the most active comic shop present, right? Like how frequently would you say you go to Fat Moose?
Once every 3 months.
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
Never mind.
For a long time, I've tried to encourage him to go there, but I guess it's not that close, right? He's about an hour away.
No.
I guess I knew that generally from our conversations, but I thought it was a little more frequent than that.
Well, but
Yeah.
you probably thought it was more frequent because every time I go there, 10 seconds in, Sean Henrik takes a picture of me,
Oh, it's on
and
Facebook.
you know about it before I get home.
Oh, it's on Facebook. And then Rich calls and he's like,
Yeah.
hey, and I'm like, you went to Fat Moose.
Yes. And you heard about the name Gene Cahill. The last time I was there, even before I got home, you had responded, I guess the universes are colliding because this guy is the Earth 2 Rich Roney. And he knows more about comic history than I do. I was in there, I guess it might have been in the spring, and some guy started asking questions. And his answers, Cahill's answers, he was faster than me and he knew more detail than me, which really made me feel weak and humble.
That's really amazing. Rich is really an encyclopedia of knowledge on comics.
I can remember the time, Bill, you and Brian and Drew were at Drew's apartment. And I think you called me and you said, what's the cover to Avengers 70? I said, that's the one. It's a red cover. The swordsman is like going at Clint Barton on the cover. I got a lot in my mind. Want to hear about White Earp?
No, I guess I guess I talked a bit about why it's not really a part of my routine and as, with the regularity certainly that it used to be for alternate realities. And I guess one other thing is, again, going back to I think the last couple of times I went there, it was one of the employees, Ben, seems like a really nice guy. And again, this goes both ways. It's not like I necessarily made an effort. Really, I didn't make any effort to strike up a conversation. It wasn't it wasn't what I was looking for. Really, I had Steph and Milo in the car. I was going to get something. Again, it was so. Again, that's all to say. I'm really not putting it on the stores, and certainly it's not the store's fault if they don't have a group of people who happen to be there talking about stuff.
Yeah.
But I think too, in terms of what I'm looking for out of the experience, it's just different. But then absent that, it then just becomes more of. Again, if I'm not really looking to build my single issue collection and I'm, not necessarily having that conversation and my time is limited, that's kind of short circuits the whole thing. But so for you, Rich, with Fat Moose, that I agree with you. I think they really have the spirit that's closest to what we had at our store. But still, it's only once every 3 months. Is that more a product of you're just not as interested in what's there, or it's too much of a drive? Why do you think you're not going there? Because the way you were talking about it, if you had said, I go there every 3 weeks, I think we would have all been like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But every 3 months is pretty infrequent. Why do you think that is?
Probably for two reasons. My interest has dwindled so much, right? So the stories don't pull me in the way they once did. And then in a sad fashion, and I can't say enough good things about Sean. He's so positive and he puts his heart and soul into the store. But in a sad fashion, I've gone there a couple of times at 5:30 on a Wednesday, and the book I want's already sold out. So I think he's getting into that point where he orders so precisely. It might be, it's speculative on my part. He might be super conscious of, geez, I don't want to have stuff that's not going to sell. So that's been, a little bit of a turnoff.
Right, because you haven't pre-ordered something. You just went in figuring maybe I'll grab a copy off the shelf.
It's Wednesday night, 5:30. I can probably grab it.
I think this is, look, my experience currently is super limited, but it's very similar at all. Yeah. The last thing that I went to buy there was The Last Days of Luther by Part 1 by our friend Mark Wade. And I did not pre-order it because I wasn't sure if I was going to buy it physically or where I was going to go, whatever. And so I went on Wednesday, in the afternoon, and it was, I think, the last copy or the second to last copy on the shelf. And it's, again, we think back to the alternate realities days where it's those shelves were deep. Those were deep, and especially a book like that, we would have had however many copies for
But
the
we
shelf.
were a different store.
Now, sure.
We would have 5-10 times what everybody else does, the average comic book shop.
I will say this. There was the Mark Wade Captain Marvel that came out recently. And I needed a copy. I called and Justin picked up the phone at Fat Moose. He said, don't worry, I'm going to put it behind the counter. Come in whenever you want. So their spirit of doing things is just so positive. And it was there for me. And also the last thing, I have been there on a few Wednesday nights, and it's a party.
It is.
I mean, Justin DeVoe, am I saying his name right? There's a number of people there, and they're hardcore comic fans, and it's great. I can pick up a conversation with them. And Anthony, you've seen the pictures of me adjacent to Gene Cahill, so they get a little bang out of it.
Do you think you would ever pal around with Gene Cahill? Like, is there any part of you that's like, hey, like maybe I should ask him if he wants to grab a slice after we pick up our books?
I have thought about that because his historical knowledge is superior to mine. Our tastes are very similar, both in comics, and he spoke about some stuff at work, and he had the same cynical, not quite as cynical as someone I know, but a little bit of a cynical opinion of things.
As long as if he smokes, then you're really in business.
That's right.
You've checked off all the boxes. That should be the test. When you guys are walking out of Fat Moose, offer him a cigarette.
You smoke?
You got a light?
Yeah.
Well, I know when Sean Hendricks hears this, because he will hear this, I know he'll either reach out, the thought's already going through his head, I'm sure, and either he'll reach out directly to me or to you or to me to get word to you of if there's something you want to either pre-order it or even that day, like call. I'm sure he would probably say.
I know he would. He is so giving, so generous. But I don't want to subject people to that. My tastes are not what they were 25 years ago. I mean, Anthony, to go back even further, before I ever shook hands with you, I can remember for about a month going in and seeing Anthony's pick of the week. So your recommendations fired up interest in things. I bought a few of those books just because you recommended it. And thank God, we're not going to drill into JLA Soul War or Spectre War.
JLA Spectre Soul War is my cigarette when it comes to Rich, where I think he has, I mean, but well, I guess flip it, because I feel like he has pinned so much of our friendship on the fact that I told him about a review I had read of this 2-part JLA Spectre miniseries. I read a review.
Was it Silver Bullet?
Silver Bullet's the now defunct website, but they gave it like a 1 or a 2 out of 10. And I had just shared that with you. Sorry, Steve. I talked him out of buying a book. I was like, this has got a really bad review. And then he later flipped through it and he was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't buy this. But it's been 20 years and he always cites the fact that I saved him from buying
With admiration. The two things I'll say by way of going down memory lane, before you gave your clinical opinion, you just kind of scowled your face like, oh, I don't know if I'd pick that up, so your facial expression conveyed a lot. But you're talking me out of a book is infinitesimal compared to the way he's done. How many times did he tell you or Sean or someone else, Rich doesn't need that. Don't put that in his folder. He doesn't need that.
Greatest Green Lantern stories ever told. I remember that. I was like, I think Rich, I think I gave you one to put in his file. I'm like, he doesn't want that. I'm like, I think he probably does. But you probably figured he already had this.
He has all the issues. In fact, what kills me is that every time I say, why don't you take a look at Oya's The Silver Age box they just got. It's got a bunch of Green Lanterns. Like, I've got them all. In fact, I probably have 2 or 3.
It's funny. We were all talking off mic ahead of time, and Steph was asking me too, like, how long is this episode going to be? And I think we've all had different predictions. I had said to her, I was like, at least 2 hours. It could be 3. Bill, what did you think?
I thought, like I said, I bought lunch and dinner for my son who's sitting at home, so 5 hours.
So I'm happy to keep this party going as long as we all have stuff to talk about. Steve, are you having a good time? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, all right.
I was just going to say we should switch chairs because I feel like based on this camera, it looks like I'm in a wheelchair or something. It's like I don't want people to think after
put Rich in the wheelchair.
after all these
Why
years,
just a little oxygen mask and
Steve's in such bad health that he's got to be in his fancy chair. So I thought maybe
So here's the thing. Here's what I want to do. I want to do a little bit of business, and then we'll pause and we'll switch and we'll stretch and we'll do all that stuff. So in our series finale here, I want to issue some thank yous, and I've thanked these people before, but it's our last episode and it bears repeating. So our musical and artistic contributors. I have gotten music for this podcast from Dan Pritchard in Australia, our mutual friend Ralph Puma, and the band Basic Printer, based out of Tennessee. They have all been so gracious towards me in terms of creating music, giving me music, letting me use stuff that they have. and all at no cost. And that's a huge benefit. And I thank them all. And I encourage everyone to, Basic Printer and Ralph Puma, if you look them up on the music streaming services, you'll find them. And Dan Pritchard, Dan from Australia, he's got a YouTube channel and he's on social media as well. Please check them out. And really my unending thanks to them. On the art side, there's the key art that you see for each season of the podcast. And when you look up My Comic Shop history on the platforms, that's the art that you see. And it's come from a few places over the years. Steph made the first few over the years, so I'm grateful to her. More recently, we've had art from Phil Menza, a Fat Moose Comics customer, who's an artist and a YouTuber in his own right. And he's done the art for the Long R Halloween, and the Oldest in New Jersey event that I did last year, and for this For All Seasons event. So I'm very grateful to them. There's also the piece by Chris Giarusso that's hanging over my shoulder there, the original art for The Homecoming, our aborted 2020 event, all about how we were going to do Undiscovered Realm Comic-Con and Alternate Realities is going to be a convention vendor and Bill was going to fly in. Though now I'm wondering, were you really going to fly in?
I would have flown in. Come on, for sure.
But these folks have contributed art over the years, and I greatly appreciate it. And then this is going back to the very beginning, and I know I've thanked these guys before, but you know what? They helped me out in the beginning when they didn't need to, and I appreciate it. But Greg Schiegel, comic book creator and podcaster, very early on when I was like, all right, I want to do a podcast, I reached out to him because he had done what's called Stuff Said. He also does a Tom Cruise movie rewatch podcast called Cruising Along, or Cruising Together. So check that out. But he sent me this whole document about what you need to make a podcast, because just like a comic book shop, there's a lot more that goes on than people realize. So he sent me that, and it really helped get me started. And yeah, there are guides online and stuff like that, but getting it from a trusted source was super helpful. And then Doug Desher, Double D from our group, who works in radio, he met me at Alternate Realities one night when I had just gotten the equipment, and we sat down and we set it up, and he showed me what to do. And that was invaluable as I was starting out. And I'll never forget, most people, the first time they put on headphones and they talk into a microphone and they hear their voice, they don't like it. Not me. I was like, this is great. This is amazing. And that launched this whole podcast thing. So those guys, were there at the start helping me, get this off the ground. And then I'm not going to continue to single people out because we would be here forever. But honestly, every guest who has come on the show, every comic shop who has opened their doors to us, whether to feature their store or, in the case of Aw Yeah and Spider's Web, they just let us record stuff there and take up space on their table, right, after Alternate Realities closed. So I'm very grateful to them. The audience, for people who have been with us from the beginning, people who came in later, people who maybe have dropped off, but now they're listening to the series finale after a long gap, I'm just immensely grateful that anybody has listened, let alone the amount of people who have. And last but certainly not least, the patrons. I launched the Patreon in 2018, and it's grown. And over the years now, we've picked up more people from Digging for Kryptonite. But there are people there who have been with me since the beginning, and I'm very grateful for them. And that has allowed me to cover all of the costs associated with making these podcasts. So it's a huge help, and I appreciate it all. So my thanks to everybody. One last bit of business before we take a break. Some commercials. Now, normally I drop in pre-recorded commercials, but we're here. We just do them live. And I think the first one maybe has already been done, but Fat Moose is one of our sponsors. Rich, is there anything else you want to say about Fat Moose Comics to encourage people to go and check out the shop in Whippany, New Jersey?
Yeah. 3 things I'll say.
They're only 30-second plugs, so don't give them too much. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll be quick. Well, they're a store where it's appropriate to exceed the 30 seconds. But again, like I said, Sean is so generous and so enthusiastic and so customer service oriented. He is really, really pro the guy who comes in and wants to buy books. So there again, the great spirit there. It mirrors what we grew up with. He's got great content, great back issues. And then the other thing he does is a lot of events. There's a lot of times I've gone in there where he gets artists, whether from the Kubert School or others. So his energy, whoever said it's the best show or the best store in New Jersey, that's a credo that stands pretty solid.
I think Sean himself said that, but you're right. No, it's a good.
It's got merit. It definitely got merit.
No,
so.
Thank you for speaking about them. Another comic shop sponsor is Acme Comics in Greensboro, North Carolina. led by Lord Retail. Lord Retail and Sean Hendricks are two guys, and we've talked about them a lot. They've been on the show a lot, but they were both employees of their shops when I met them, right? And started having these conversations with them. And now they're the owners of their stores. I'm so proud of them. And with Jermaine in particular, they're opening a second location in the downtown area of Greensboro, North Carolina. Like, good for them. Like, that's amazing. So for anyone in the area, be sure to check out either location for Acme Comics. And they do a ton of mail order as well. So if you're not in the area, but you want to reach out, go to acmecomics.com. They do a newsletter that contains a ton of information. They do a podcast called Acme Cast. They're on eBay as well, alongside Alternate Realities 2.0, aka Super Oto. So make sure you check them out there as well. And our thanks to Acme Comics. Steve, do you want to tell people why they should check out Aw Yeah?
Oh yeah, I just want to add to the whole Lord Retail thing. He's another young, enthusiastic guy who you can just tell from his posts. You can tell he loves this stuff. Yes, Oh Yeah, great shop. I think it's a little different as far as the that alternate realities camaraderie type thing, because Mark is constantly working. I mean, I used to joke that I was the hardest working man in Westchester, and then you kind of realize that Ralph Puma, the father, was a baker, worked harder and did a lot more, like local theater and all that other stuff in his free time.
Chris Wilcock.
Yeah, Chris Wilcock is to me now the hardest working man, because
I don't know how he does
what
it.
What does he do? Like 30, 35 conventions around the country.
They're not one of our sponsors, but we love Chris. So we mentioned, he's got Addicted to Ink, the tattoo shop. He's got Undiscovered Realm, the store. They do a ton of conventions. He's run conventions before. I don't know if URCon is coming back, but he does the tattoo convention as well.
The quantity of pops that he orders, collections, ridiculously expensive collections that he purchases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he goes to every concert.
He's
at concerts all the time.
And he goes to concerts all the time. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, he takes pictures with every celebrity I've ever known.
And then raising his son. I don't know where he gets the energy. And then his trucks are always breaking down. There's always some problem with the conventions going in, getting out. Whatever. It's amazing with the things he has to deal with, flat tires, whatever it is, that he somehow managed to get through in the snowstorms and in the torrential rains. But somehow he manages to pull through. He comes out feeling sick, but he managed to pull himself together after 2 days to do the next one.
Quite the plug for the store.
Yeah. Chris, you owe me $10.
I didn't see you giving him the hook for the 30 seconds.
No, I've actually not gone to his store, so I don't know what it looks like up there. Years ago when he first opened up, but I've got to imagine, just based on the photographs, that it's packed full of everything you could hope for. And plus, he's all the interest too, magic and all that, which I never had an interest in.
Yeah.
But
I forget what happened, which is a good thing, I guess. But there was some day where everything was going wrong for us. And Steph and I were like, oh my God, like that's what all of his days are like. Like there's always something going wrong. And like I give him so much credit, because it would be so easy to just be like, all right, enough. Like I'm not doing this. But he's like, he keeps very Rocky-esque. Like he keeps getting back up and goes through all these days, knowing that there are going to be all these little fires that he has to put out. So yeah, kudos to him.
No, every time he posts that he could use help for a delivery or needs somebody to do this, or does anybody have a spare tire for whatever, I want to go out there and help him. Even though I'm far away and I don't have that kind of muscle to take all those loads up the stairs. But it's like, gee, I wish I could help this guy. And that's how good a fellow he is. So it would be good if people patronized his place.
Yeah. All right, so check out Aw Yeah Comics in Harrison, New York, Skokie, Illinois, and Muncie, Indiana, 3 locations. And you know what I want to say for Skokie in particular, that's home to Bernie Gersmeyer, who's become a great friend. He's been on Digging for Kryptonite a bunch of times. And, look, like that's one of those other things. He's originally from the East Coast. Like, I don't know, hypothetically, let's say at some point he and his family move back here, right? And he becomes a fixture at Aw Yeah Harrison. Like, that's something that would be an X factor that would change the, like, he and I have talked for hours and hours and hours about Superman. It's like, if he were there every day or a few days a week, it's like, yeah, I probably would go, like, just to chat with him. So it's, these things can shift. But yeah, Aw Yeah, they do a ton of events, super family friendly. And really their inventory has grown, because I think about those early days when they were first opening and setting up, and it's been 8 years. They've been here 8 years. And so many alternate realities customers ended up there either initially or then after Spider's Web temporarily closed before they reopened. I know a bunch of customers went over there. So it's definitely, you go there, you might run into Sean McInerney digging through some back issue bins.
Whenever I visit, I'll run into somebody that used to shop with us.
That's nice.
So
that's nice. Yeah. So we have a lot of sponsors. It's very nice. So Philtastic, I mentioned him before. Philtastic, Phil Menza. So I'm going to read this. Who do you call when you're in trouble? Alien invasion? Call Superman. Bank being robbed? Call Spider-Man. But who can you count on if you want to learn how to make a window bag? Philtastic Comics and Art is here to help. Whether it's fighting FOMO, talking about art, or baking wheat cakes, you can count on Philtastic for your comic and art-related infotainment needs. The best part is you don't even need a bat signal. Just look up Philtastic Comics and Art on YouTube. Subscribe today to keep up on everything Philtastic. He does a great job. He does these live shows. By the time this airs, I will have already done it, but I'm doing his live show in a couple of days where we're talking about the series finale of the show, and hopefully we'll get some more people to tune in. So yeah, make sure that you check that. A nice guy, family man. He has a young child. He and his wife are now expecting another. Again, another one of those Fat Moose people who have we've had this alternate realities Fat Moose crossover, and has just been super supportive. So my thanks to him as well. We also have film festivals. Sort of a family of festivals. It's Brightside Tavern in Jersey City, Hang On to Your Shorts in Asbury Park, Point Lookout on Long Island, and Round Reel in Bloomfield, New Jersey. So my Jay Mizell movie played at Hang On to Your Shorts and Brightside Tavern. And so I've experienced these festivals as a filmmaker, and they're very well run. And the organizer's name is CJ Cullen. He does podcasts. He does a Hang On to Your Shorts podcast and the Cullen on Film podcast. So make sure you check those out. And yeah, I mean, if you're a filmmaker, or you just love indie film, I definitely recommend checking out those festivals. I was happy to be a part of them. Let's see. Oh, shout out to Sam Lim, educator, hobby comic book collector, and pop culture enthusiast. Sam is based in the South Jersey area and is looking to connect with other comics fans as well as retailers. They're looking for shops to explore, so recommendations are welcome. Be sure to follow Sam on Instagram at SZL Comics to see their latest comic pickups and shop adventures. This is a very new sponsor, this next one, and this is really more for Digging for Kryptonite. But nevertheless, give them a shout out. Always hold on to Smallville, the Smallville Rewatch podcast hosted by my buddy Zach Moore. I've been on it a bunch of times. If you're a Smallville fan to any degree, you got to check this out. He's already into season 9, going episode by episode through Smallville. And it's a great listen. If you love Smallville or if you're just mildly interested in it, definitely want to make sure you check out Always Hold On to Smallville on all major podcast platforms. I'm not really going to plug my Patreon. If you haven't signed up for it at this point, I don't know, but patreon.com/Anthony Desiato, I would appreciate it. It really helps. And the last thing is that we are an affiliate of BCW Supplies. So the next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10%, because of course FSP is for Flat Squirrel Productions. So the name and legacy live on. It really helps support the show. I don't log in a lot to check my affiliate account, but the last time I did, a lot of people have used the code. It was kind of staggering to see the numbers there. So thank you to everyone who has used the code. And if you haven't, again, bcwsupplies.com, promo code FSP, you get 10%. A little bit comes my way. It really helps a lot. So thank you to everyone who has. And if you haven't, please do. All right. Shall we take a break?
Sounds good.
All right. We'll be right back. And we're back. Steve and Rich have switched seats. Bill, do you think that, I feel like Rich has aged about 10 or 15 years since we took our break, and Sko looks so youthful.
I don't know. I was going to say, Rich, that chair is very slimming.
So listen, we still have to do our big draft, which we'll explain to the audience, and I can't wait. It's a main event. But of course, we'll also talk about what we've been up to. I have some audience questions and comments that I want to read. But how are you guys all doing so far in this episode? What have we not talked about yet that you're like, oh, we got to talk about this? Because I want to make sure everyone has an opportunity here. And as much as I have my list here, it's all of our episode. What you got?
I think it's going great.
I like sitting around talking. This is like the old days.
I'll talk to you guys. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys all day.
Yeah.
This is very enjoyable.
Yeah. One of the reasons the podcasts are so good is because this is not just the four of us here, but everybody who listens is as if they're sitting here or at the store, standing at the counter or whatever, listening to us talk about nonsense and being part of it and reliving the funs and the laughs
and the friendship.
The friendship. That should be a cat. Yeah. That should be a T-shirt. Bill,
I have to say, I do always love. I do always love. Shout out to Matt Casey. The first time you were on the show, Rich, in season 1, it was you and Casey together. And deep into the episode, he was like, oh my God, if I have to hear one more time about the friendship and the fun. It's like Joey Tribbiani on Friends when he's like writing that letter for, or it's either because he's going to perform the ceremony or, that's what it was. He was going to officiate the wedding. And he comes up with this whole thing about having and holding. And he just like, he's saying over and over. Not that you do that. Not that you do that. But.
Today, I haven't done it yet.
No, but listen. Okay.
The day's still young.
while we're catching up and we're talking about the audience, as I've said, as the years have gone by, I don't tend to hear a ton from people when I put out new episodes of this show. I tend to hear more these days on Digging for Kryptonite, whatever we're talking about, and I hear more on that front. But, whoa, Rich, did I hear from people after your Blu-ray revelation?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. When I went into Fat Moose, the first, two things. You've told me this. I'll make it fast. But some guy said, "I really have a radio voice." Well, what the? But then Sean goes, "Yeah, this is Rich Roney. You're the guy that doesn't know how to use the Blu-ray."
So for any new audience members, if you're new to the show, last episode, we were winding down. Really, I was wrapping up. I thought that was it. And I was like, hey, do you have anything else? And I thought we were going to be done. And then you volunteered this revelation that
moment of weakness.
Contrary to what you had told me, you had actually not hooked up your flat screen television and Blu-ray player, but instead had gone out and bought a portable Blu-ray player. And that's what you were watching it on. Now, it made for great podcasting, honestly. And I put the video clip of that segment up online.
Did you put the video clip of your facial reactions? Because
it's all there, man.
Cool.
It's all there. And so there was a range of reactions. This was fascinating. Your wife, Steve Ann, reached out on Facebook. She said, "Desi, dear, for your blood pressure and your family's sake, I recommend you abandon the quest to die on this particular hill. I hear many of Rich and Steve's conversations, and that cat will never jump." i.e. you hooking up your Blu-ray player, which I wrote back and I was like, I'm not on a quest. I assume, and this is the thing that I think is important to remind the audience here. And this is what I wrote to Ann. I said, I assumed the Blu-ray ship sailed long ago, right? Like, especially now, like there's no doubt in my mind that you're not going to set it up. It was the ruse and the revelation. That's what got me. But there was that. My mom commented, she said, "Anthony, we need to have a conversation." And, after that, I'm like, my gut was that she was going to say I was mean to you in the episode. That's where I thought that was going. But it wasn't. The opposite. She was like, or not even that she was mad at you, but she was like, basically like chastising me for being gullible, like that I allowed you to hoodwink me about this. And I was like, I'm pretty generally a fairly skeptical person. And I don't believe I'm gullible. It's just that it like, why on earth would he volunteer that he hooked it up when he didn't, and then it was a lie? Like the idea that's what got me about it.
It was a moment of weakness when I told the truth. I should have sustained the original lie, but the episode would have been much shorter.
It was great. Listen, more feedback. So from one of our longtime customers, Aten Ronker, right?
Oh yeah,
he said, this is all on Facebook. He said, "So funny. As you point out, it's literally the same as setting up a smaller TV and DVD player. But in Rich's defense, it's not about that. And this gets at a larger issue, Rich, that I want to bring up.
When did
It
this
isn't
become
irrational.
psychoanalysis?
Well, but people really, there were a couple along this track. He said, it isn't a rational thing. It's basically technophobia, which is way more prevalent than you may imagine. And not just among older people either, although there is a generational factor to it. God knows I'm not getting any younger, and I confess I'm far from tech savvy. It depends, I guess, on how motivated any individual is to accomplish whatever tech-dependent goal they might have. Not everyone has the same goals or same level of motivation.
Can you forward that to me? I want to use that tech phobia.
And we also had something from another listener, Brian Dempsey, who said he was relating something that a teacher had told him long ago. The teacher said, when you ask most people, not everyone, but most, why they did or are doing something, they'll give you a good reason. But they don't always give you the real reason. And Brian says, I believe she's right. I've caught myself providing a plausible explanation over how I really feel or think, a good reason, not the real reason, usually out of embarrassment or an attempt to keep something to myself I don't want shared. So all this to say, I don't know that Rich has given you the real reason why he is so reluctant to accept these items and adapt to using them. I wish you luck in your quest to find the answers. There's this theme that there's more going on here. And I guess while we're here for the series finale, I mean, I don't know. And this is not to, to even to make fun. Do you think it is like the technophobia thing? Does that kind of resonate?
You guys are my best friends, so I'm going to be as honest as I can. I think it's just that I'm lazy and I procrastinate.
I don't know, man. Well, Bill, I'll toss it to you. What do you think?
I don't think he's. I think. Like Ann said so eloquently, he's just not going to do it, and that's fine. Let's just, he doesn't want to do it, and I agree.
Yeah, I
Why
think
does
it's
he
just
need to?
doesn't want to do it. Because, I mean, if you volunteered to drive over there and just said, I'll only be here for 5 minutes, set it up, get out of your hair. He said, no, it's okay. And that'll be it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's still mint in box, right? So he can sell it in 20 years for as an antique.
Yeah.
What a sea change before and after the break.
Look,
Let's go back to stories in Jersey.
We've talked about it enough, and I don't want to belabor the point. I guess I don't.
Here, I was worried you were going to bring up the girls in high school you wanted to fix me up with.
You said don't talk about those.
Can we talk about that?
No, you said those are forbidden subjects.
Or Rich, we're all going to miss the phone call this week.
Yeah, you're going to get a voicemail.
Dead.
Yeah, you're going to get a voicemail. You son of a bitch.
Well, while we're here, Rich, are there any other revelations? Anything else you want to reveal in the series finale here? It's a safe space. We're all friends. Is there anything else that you've been sitting on? Now's the time. It's a safe space.
If you guys ever get to Scranton and see a guy just like me with a different name, keep on walking.
What? You've assumed someone's identity?
No, actually, this is the cover story.
Oh.
I see.
All right. I think that's as far as we're going to get on this Blu-ray thing. I just don't think it's this is the last thing I'll say. I feel like if it were procrastination, you wouldn't go out to the store to buy a portable Blu-ray. But that's to me what undermines the procrastination, because the time that it would take and the effort that it would take. So I feel like, I don't know, whatever other reason it is, but it's as long as you're happy, you're enjoying the content that you want to enjoy on whatever screen that works for you. Beautiful. I love it. All right. We'll leave Rich alone now.
Can you take this portable Blu-ray player and hook it up to your big TV to actually put the Blu-ray in there and watch it on the big screen?
Maybe. I don't know.
It should be theoretically possible, right? Because it really is just a player with a screen.
Yeah,
right?
I bet there's connectors for it.
Yeah, okay.
Why don't you look into that, Rich? Let us know. On this note of sort of Facebook comments and just like news stories and things or at least things that I didn't know, Steve, you posted this a while back, and this was totally news to me. You wrote, within our first 2 months of opening alternate realities, we hired 2 high school kids to work part-time.
Oh, yeah.
One kid, Troy, I remember as a good, quiet, hard worker. The other was a privileged little blank named Jed, who thought he was smarter than everyone and stole valuable comics, non-sport cards, and cash from us. On his last day before heading off to college, we had the Greenberg police waiting for him. After some questioning, he confessed, was accompanied to his house, and returned with the stolen property and his father, who wrote a check to us. Personally, I wanted blood and vengeance, but the store needed to recover the money. And then you posted the police property report from that incident.
Because I'm cleaning up the papers and I still have the stuff from 1992.
Did you know this guy, Bill?
No, this is way before.
Way before. This is first year. This is the very first year.
But you never even heard of him?
know.
Yeah, he never made his way into the stories as far as I know.
No, I kept track on him over the years. Well, because I knew where he was going to college, and I see where he's worked, where he got jobs. So and Steve Oto never forgets. So one day, revenge.
As far as other Facebook posts of yours, Steve, you're posting a lot about those popettes, those powdered donuts.
Oh yeah.
And someone commented basically saying like, how many boxes of these are you going through? Well, what's the deal? There's a certain number that you expect to have in a box.
On the outside, it says a certain weight, net weight. And I opened it up and I would count them to be 19 normally. So once in a while you get 20 and say, oh, I win. Sometimes you get 18. It's like, But actually 18 is more than the weight on the box. So they did cover themselves that way. But the other day I got 17. I was a little upset.
You've been posting about that.
I don't need a whole box every day.
No,
I buy a box and I might have like 3, maybe 5. And then I'll have it the next day and maybe skip a day. And then by the end of the week, they're a little hard. But, with coffee, it soaks in.
I hope your listeners are very excited about what we are up to nowadays.
It's funny. So on Facebook, right, you see your memories of what you posted on this day in the past. And so whenever I see posts from like my college days, it's usually television related. Like, can't wait to get home to watch White Collar. Mm-hmm. And I say to myself, it's like, man, my problems and my concerns were so minuscule at this point in time, right? Like the level of responsibility and tasks that I have now is like vastly beyond what it was at that time. And so I look back and I'm like, oh, like that's like quaint. It's like, that's what my day was about. Like, oh, I'm going to go home and watch a show. With you, I mean, I know you have a lot on your plate too, Steve. You have various considerations. I'm not diminishing anything, but at the same time, like thinking back to the stuff that used to get your blood pressure up about the store and like everything that was going wrong, and we see it now from Sean Hendricks. Like he put like, UPS didn't bring my books. Like the power's out, the credit card machine's not working. So I guess there's a part of me that's like happy for you when I see like if the worst thing about your day is that they gave you 19 popettes instead of 20, I'm like, that's not that bad. So I'm happy to see that.
And this is the whole thing about seeing life in a different light. To me, I look at that and said, if I got a flat tire and that's the worst thing that happened to me today, it's a good day. So even though I like that night where I had the flat tire, it's like, thank God it happened in my own driveway, White Plains. Because if I were in the middle of 684 or something, then what a headache that would be. Have to get towed and all this stuff. And then I could just contact Tesla and they came the next day and fixed it and called me and said it's fixed. So I had to come back to White Plains to get it. So, things like that. Like, in the grand scheme of the world and what's going on, if getting poison ivy is the worst thing that happened, it's like, well, it could be much worse. So it's like, what no complaints.
And then the other thing you post about all the time now are is about your entry into the world of comics restoration. You're pressing comics. You're doing all this stuff. It's fascinating.
Oh, I wish I'd learned to do it years ago.
I'm super impressed, Steve. Like,
some of it came out
photos
nicely.
that you post, incredible.
What a difference! Yeah. It's like it makes you look at your own collection and say, I could have improved everything. But the problem is now you look at every comic book and say, I can make this a little bit better. I can make it from a VG to a fine. It's like it's not worth the time or the money. It's the monetary difference is nothing, but it's just personal. You just look at it and say, this is a nice looking book, presents well. In the beginning,
but you've gone all out, Steve. You've gotten the press. You got the UV light. This week you were experimenting with sodium bicarbonate and yellowing plastic on figures.
That didn't work. I've got to try something else. I was
still very impressive.
I was thinking you were going to help me on that one. I think
there's probably ways to do it, but
yeah, there are guys out there, companies out there selling stuff, which I think is just crap. So I don't want to even bother. But interesting stuff. I wish I'd learned how to do this.
I thought you were going to bring your press today.
Well, I thought you said don't bring.
I'm kidding.
Don't bring show and tell stuff. But
no. But so you've got your comic restoration. You're eBaying. You have moved. We talked about that last time when you were on, and you've sort of rebuilt alternate realities at the new place. Right. What else? Anything else you want to share with folks about what you're doing? How you spend your days? How you spend your time?
Big news. You want big news?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be a grandfather.
Oh,
hey!
Congratulations.
Hey.
Oh, that's so great.
Didn't say anything for a couple of months because you want to wait 3 months or something.
Yeah.
But now,
oh my gosh,
there's going to be a crown princess coming in March.
Oh,
mid-March.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy
So-
for them and for you. That's
Oh, that's so
wonderful.
great.
So I'm buying diapers and stuff like that, so Evan doesn't have to spend the money. And it's very excited. It's he's sort of lost interest in a lot of the things we used to collect, the Star Wars and all those toys, but even the Godzilla. But Lord of the Rings is his big thing, so he's gonna make sure she gets indoctrinated to that. I'm gonna make sure she's indoctrinated to Japanese food, Godzilla.
Oh, Grandpa Sco.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, we'll keep the podcast going, guys.
Yeah, very excited. I'm
so
very
great.
excited. It's scary, but here we go. Next phase.
Next phase. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, now I can't throw anything out. All those
great.
like kids books and stuff. It's like, well, I should keep it for the granddaughter.
A few more audience comments and questions. Dan Pritchard, who we mentioned a moment ago, has a question for you, Steve. I could answer this, but Dan says, meaning Steve's, wind his age back 20 years. He opens a hybrid brick and mortar / online shop. It's after the Marvel DC movie phenomenon. Does that make him happy? So if you were opening a store and you're younger, you had more of an online component, and it's in the wake of the Marvel DC movie boom. Do you think you'd have an easier time? You'd be happier?
Oh,
If
I
you
were
were like,
open to today,
essentially,
but
yeah,
I'd
but
be
you're younger.
mid-40s.
Yeah.
Would I be happier?
Yeah. Would that make you happy?
I doubt it.
I figured.
I
That's
doubt
why
it.
I thought that was going.
I mean, I'm assuming I still have that mental. I know how hard it is, and considering the amount of product that's being put out today, the kind of crap that how expensive all this stuff is, how hard it is to do a brick and mortar, even with an online thing as a supplement, and then we'd have to do shows. I mean, I guess you guys would love it. We'd be doing shows every weekend, but it does wear away at you. Maybe we could do it for a couple of years before we said this is killing me.
Look, I think it's physically with the stores and the convention, right? They're physically demanding, but then just in terms of the energy on an intellectual / emotional level that you need to muster and to kind of be on like that all the time, it does wear you down.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to keep up with the storylines and all the different artists and all that kind of stuff. There's so many people and there's so much talent. Looking at the videos of people walking up and down Artist Alley and people you never heard of and people you'll never hear about again. But there's so much talent there. It's like, how many of these are going to get the break to making it the big time?
True. Yeah. All right, last couple of comments. Philtastic Phil said, I just want to say this series has been such a pleasure to listen to. It's one I recommend often. Job well done. Thank you. Frank Del Rio says, hope you break your word and do a reunion episode once a year or maybe once every other year. Again, I don't think that's in the cards, but I appreciate that. JD says, sad. I really enjoyed the ride. It would be epic if you could get a Jeff Wong appearance or update, but I'm excited to listen. I'm so sorry. I really did try. Does anyone even know what he is? Bill, is there anything on his Facebook page that indicates what he's doing? No. Okay. So he's out there in the world, but we don't know. And then again, this whippersnapper pops up again. Steve Oto, when's the next finale after this one? I want to write it down in my schedule for next year. Fair enough. All right. So what do we have next? Oh, I think this is a good time for my little surprise. Nothing crazy, but I think you guys, Steve in particular, will enjoy this. So best I just share it and then we can discuss. Bill, you should be able to hear this. If not, I'm sorry, but you should be able to hear it through our video conferencing platform here. So this will run for a few minutes, and I think this is something that we'll all enjoy, and I was happy to put this together.
Frank here. Just want to say, miss alternate realities, miss you guys. Little throwback, the rack over here came from the old alternate reality store, so I got a little piece of the store here with me. Always remember the good times.
Hi, this is George Lentino, reserve number 31. Finding alternate realities and meeting Steve when we moved to Yonkers in 1997 was a big deal for me. I'd gone to a lot of LCSs over the years, but I really felt at home at AR. Steve was friendly and helpful as soon as he realized I was going to pick up my hold every week and never leave him hanging. Even when I moved all the way up to northern Westchester, I had to come back once a month to get my AR fix. Steve, Sean, and Brandon were always ready to chat. When my kids were born, I'd bring them in every week, and every year for my kids' birthdays, Steve would have a Wonder Woman action figure or a comic book set aside for my daughter and son. Thanks, Steve, for all the AR memories. I miss it still.
Hey, my name is Jason Medina. I was a regular customer at Alternate Reality. I used to enjoy going there a lot with my brother. And it was always nice going there and seeing the guys, Steve and the other Steve and Sean, and even in the earlier days, Anthony, especially when Jay was there, because Jay was just so much fun to listen to. But I'm glad I'm still friends with some of these people, and it's nice to know that Anthony's doing these video documentaries for Steve, because it's good that the store be remembered, because it was a great place.
Jeremy Frutkin, longtime customer. I have such wonderful memories of going there with my buddy Will, my dad. Not only was it a place to share our common interests and passions, but all these years later, it led me to a great relationship with Anthony and countless hours of podcasting, and something that I and so many people love. You know, it was a place to not only talk about our common interests, but a beautiful place where everybody felt like a community and they belonged. You kind of got that feeling as soon as you walked in. It was one of those places that was more than a place, if that makes any sense. Thanks so much, guys.
Hi, this is Andy. My reserve number is long since lost to the mists of time. But I'm the guy that dressed up as Adam West Batman for Batman Day at the store, and I miss alternate realities. I realized the other day that I still have the phone number programmed into my cell phone, and like a person lacking sanity, I kept it, even though the store is long gone. I miss the sense of community, and I'll buy my comics online, which is not the same. I still stalk Otto from afar on Facebook. We shall never see its like again. Sad. Thank you.
Hey, this is Frank Martin. Lucky number AR50. I'll always remember it because it's a nice, strong, solid number that I had every time that I came into the shop. And I'm a comic writer and creator now, but 25, 30 years ago, I was just a kid who went to alternate realities every week to pick up his books, hang out with the staff, talk to Steve behind the counter. It's a place that birthed my love for comics, and I'll always have appreciation of that.
This is Kara Shimborski. I was an alternate realities customer/family member for about 10 years, and I still think of it as my local comic shop, even though it only exists in our minds now. It meant so much to me, gave me space to be a nerd, and I will always remember fabulous business wisdom like everything sells. The question is when and at what price. Even you, Flipper action figure.
This is Alternate Reality's most famous customer, Chad from Nickelback, file number 43. Hey guys, how you doing? It's Sandro. Anthony, thanks for having me part of all this. I just got to say that I miss you guys tremendously. I was number 43. I do know that I have that nickname that you guys came up with. Anthony, while I got a chance to get to know you after the store closed much better, I did know Steve very well. I have to say that I did not know Rich and Bill when the store was going on, but having listened to all these podcasts, I wish I did know them. It's clear that these guys are just absolute gems. I hope you guys are all doing well, and please don't tell me this is the last one, okay?
Oh, bravo.
Bravo.
How did you get all these guys?
Well, I wanted to do something special for
really nice
for them and for us. Oh. Yeah. So we talk a lot on the show about our crew, right? The friends of the store and owners and employees who go out to dinner together. And this is not to discount that group. We love each other tremendously. But I think especially for the series finale, I was thinking a lot about and I don't say this in a dismissive way at all. I say it lovingly, the quote unquote supporting cast of our TV show, the customers who were there and were part of the fabric of the store. Even if they didn't necessarily come out to dinner with us, they were a huge, huge part of the alternate realities experience. And I know we've referenced a bunch of them over the years, but I wanted to create a space for them to be able to share their thoughts. And I thought you in particular would enjoy hearing from some of these people again.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, they're all good people, you know. Now, because I don't sit around thinking about it all day long, but you think number 48 at Castro, you think about, God, so many of them. It's Tom O'Sullivan, we're still in touch with. But it's just, God, I mean, when I think about like Sandro, who's right. I've known Sandro for decades.
Sandro. I feel so bad. I've called him Sandro all these years, but he said it's Sandro. So I've been mispronouncing it slightly. Sorry. But I call him Nickelback anyway, so it's all right.
But
and did he nail that? You know, I was like, he'll probably do something, but he really leaned into it. God damn, was that great?
Yeah. I mean, I know that's what some of these guys are doing. the soccer teams and all that other coaching, whatever. And it's just really nice to see. This is probably a very touching thing. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I got you, man. I put the call out on Facebook to former customers I'm friends with. So it was a decent sized list. And, there were some who were like, oh, I'll get something to you. And it didn't happen. And some who, had something come up, whatever. I'm so grateful to the people who sent something in, because it was really nice to look. Jeremy's an example. We podcast all the time. Like, I'm in regular contact with him, but most of the rest I'm not. So it was nice to see these people again and hear from them.
That was very, very heartwarming, very touching.
Well, that's a perfect segue now, right? So the thing that I had asked you guys to think about in advance of this, and this ties into what I mentioned before about our draft. So I had this idea, going back to the quote from the beginning of the show here from the Scrubs finale, when JD turns that corner and he says that all the people he thought of came at him in a wave of shared experience. For anyone who hasn't seen the show, as JD is walking down that last hallway, he sees all of the supporting characters and the notable guest stars who have been part of the show over the years. And he walks past them, and a few of them have kind of final words for him. And it's a beautiful moment that really just kind of shows this whole world that we've been watching over all of these years. And so I was thinking, if we were to build an imaginary final walk through the aisle of alternate realities, who are the people the four of us would want to populate that aisle with, right? So I'm not thinking necessarily of, again, the friends of the store who all go out to dinner, but more so, again, the supporting cast, the customers who were there, whether they were there all the time or maybe they popped in once, but they made a really memorable impression. So I had this idea of doing a draft where we'll go around, we'll take turns, and we'll do a few rounds of it where we each make a pick of who we want to have there. Now, the disclaimer is this, and I say this for us, but especially for the audience, for any customers who might be listening. It's not a popularity contest. It's not, who are the customers we love the most? You might pick, I'm looking at you in particular, Steve, like you might pick somebody who drove you nuts, but it's sort of, they were part of the fabric of the experience of alternate realities and they earned their spot there. So that's all to say that if for anyone who maybe might not be picked in this, it's not a condemnation in any way. We're sort of thinking about this in terms of the entertainment value of who we might see here, if this makes sense. Everybody on board? Steve looks very
You can also remind
confused.
the listeners that it's been a decade.
Yes. This is very, very true. But this is the
If
idea.
we leave anybody out, sorry.
That's tough. I mean, for me, it's 23 years of people.
Well,
I mean, I can go back, as bad as my memory has become, I can go back to the very beginning. I remember the little kids that came in.
That's okay. Look, here's the thing.
It's
no judgment.
It's endless. It's endless. I mean, it would take hours. I could just run off from 1992. Obviously Gene and Kevin.
So
it's
okay. Well,
It's hot in
I
here
don't
again.
think this is how he planned it.
No, so I'm not talking about like Kevin and Gene, like the co-founders of the store. I'm talking about, again, but that's why I texted you guys. Like, think about who you would want to draft. And I'm sure there are people you'll think of who I've never met and I have no idea. And same, Bill and I worked largely at different eras of the store. I'm sure we have different picks. Rich, wasn't usually there on a Wednesday, but he was there on a Saturday. I mean, he might have completely different picks. So, we'll come at this from different angles, and it's all right. But I know there's so many, but we're really, I think maybe we'll do 4 or 5 rounds. So if we each have like a handful of people that we want to, and if one person picks your person, you got to come up with somebody else. He looks at me like I have not. Yeah, Rich is going to pass. Steve is just confused. Bill, we'll just do this. No, Rich came prepared. This is what I texted. This is like the one bit of homework.
Oh my God.
I made a list.
I don't think I got the email.
Yeah. You know what? I was just as a side note, one time years ago when we did our Westie's Best Customer episode, we had an audience member who had a little bit of a negative comment on Facebook, and he wrote, like, you need to prep Steve more for these episodes, because I guess I was asking you for things and you didn't have anything. And I think
Do your homework.
And I think I just let it go, because in my head I'm like, I've tried. Like, he's not really preppable per se. So here's an example where I told him to think about this.
I didn't get the email.
It's
in the text.
It's a text.
Do you want to go last? So you have a few times or do you want to go first?
Well, I got a million people in here I could mention.
So great. So just pick 5 of them. Jesus Christ. We'll do
talk
one
about
one
those
at a time.
early kids though, really quick. Talk about those early kids. Didn't we see a video of that John Ralphio guy, and Steve was like, "Oh, he used to come to the store. What's that guy's name? I can't think of his name right now."
Oh yeah, Ben Schwartz. He's a big. He's a John
Ben
Ralphio
Schwartz.
on Parks and Recreation. He's the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, he's a customer at the store.
Right, but he had in a video he like talked about it, right? That you would share it with us.
And then I tweeted him, and he responded. Very good. It was very nice. Celebrity customer. You know what? I think I didn't randomize an order, but I think Bill, I would love for you to go first. Who's your first pick?
So my first pick, somebody I always enjoy talking to at the store, I think number 122, Mike Capolino. I think he would be somebody I would love to see. Give him a high five.
I cannot believe your first pick wasn't Jeff.H. I can't believe it, but that's
well,
all right.
Jeff.H is still in my phone, and so is the store's number too, by the way.
All right. The one other thing, when you make your pick, you don't have to give.
But all right, Jeff Wong is also not a supporting character. I mean, he's like one of the guys. Like, what are we talking about? Like the ancillary characters? I picked wrong then.
I think Anthony said it can be anyone that made an impression. So it can be someone you saw,
Do we have to tell a
I
story?
thought it was like not like the big name guys.
Well, here's where it's a matter of perspective, Bill. Because during my time, I don't think Jeff ever came out to eat with us, but he did in your time. So, like in my mind, I really just knew him in the capacity as a customer. Whereas for you, I guess maybe there was more of that time where he was coming out. So that one kind of walks a line. You don't have to necessarily tell a story. I mean, give people some context for who the person is. And then the last thing is you don't have to do this either. But if you want to give them a line, like when JD is walking down the hallway, some of the people in the hospital are saying things to him that are callbacks to prior episodes. You can if you want, but you don't have to. But all right, so number one, Mike Capolino. Excellent pick. He was on my list, so I got to cross him off. Rich Roney.
Here. You did say you could give someone, as you're walking down, who shoots something back. I'm going to see some thin, scrawny, early 60-year-old guy who shouts at Steve, "My daughter does love me."
A nod to the final customer of alternate realities. Perfect. That's excellent. Steve, would you like to go second to last, or you want the last spot?
No, it doesn't matter. Who do I remember? I remember back in 1992, there was a family who had a young, I guess, a foreign exchange student staying with them in Scarsdale. She was from Denmark. I thought one of the most beautiful girls I'd ever seen. And, of course, I can't remember her name. I guess I could if I thought about it. But I remember talking to her, and I said, "How do you say I love you in Danish?" And she taught me, "Jeg elsker dig." And I don't think I pronounced it right, but I remember years later, I was at a Pittsburgh Zombie Con, and there was a girl working for like one of the Pittsburgh art schools. And I looked at her and I said, "This girl is Danish." And sure enough, I used the line. It was great.
There you go.
Nice. That's a memory.
All right, and then I have my pick for the end of round one. So I'm going. This is a callback. We've mentioned him before and talked about the nickname. I'm pulling in Comic Eater, and in this scenario, he's all grown up, and this is the pitch that I have for it. So as we're walking by, all grown up, grown man now, he looks at us and he's like, "Guys, I never ate my comics." And then he pulls one out and he goes, "But I do now." No. That's my pick.
Comic Eater.
Comic Eater. Shout out to Comic Eater. I hope he still loves comics. I hope he still enjoys them and like salivates over them as powerfully as he did back then. So that's round one. All right, Bill, round two. Pick one.
Oh man, my memory fades a lot of people, but one of the categories that JD talked about when he walked down the hallway was people that have passed on, right? And we've lost. And I never knew him enough, but I remember him certainly at the store was Marty. And I remember seeing him all the time when I walked in the very early days before I started working at the store. And I would believe that he would be a very strong presence in the finale.
That's beautiful. I knew he would come up at some point. I never met him, or at least if I did, I was too little and I don't remember. But his spirit always loomed large in the store. So I'm glad to have him represented there. Rich?
Okay, I don't know if you guys will know this. You might know. On Saturdays when Sean was working the store, there was a guy about my height, little heavier, named Brian, who would come in. I don't know his last name, but he would drop about $400 or $500 every time he came in, and he bought both, figures, all sorts of statue type stuff for both himself and his brother. And I think his brother might have been disabled. I don't know. But you put tons of stuff in the back room for him. First name was Brian. Very sweet man. I had some great conversations with him.
Oh, it's you know who it is. Sean took care of him a lot.
Yeah, no, I just can't remember his last name, but I know exactly who he's talking about. Yeah.
Can we say the name?
Yeah.
Oh, Calvary.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Nice man. I had some just very enjoyable.
He's a gentleman. He was a real
sweet
gentleman.
Man.
Yeah.
Very, very decent. Yeah.
Excellent. Steve, your next pick.
Boy. I'm trying to remember his name. We had a lot of these type of guys. Well, I can't remember him, but I'll remember Anal Dave. Anal Dave was the guy who was one of the statue collectors, and he would come in, and because he knew Drew, he'd look at he'd make us open every single statue. We used to order quantities of a particular statue, but we'd have to open every one, and he'd have to inspect every single one of them. So there was no like air bubble on Daredevil's ass or whatever. And then he
remember that guy.
The best one, and then he'd want it at a discount.
Yep.
Yeah. And I called him
remember
Anal
that
Dave.
guy.
Yeah.
That's some nickname. I thought that story was going in a different direction, but all right, that's good. All right. I mean, we have the rough lover stories. You never knew. But okay, my next.
Oh my gosh.
Will he pop up on
Remember
this
that
list?
guy?
Maybe. I think my next pick, my first one was, I meant it sincerely, but it was a little aiming more for humor. My next one, Brian Claudio. Just like a quintessential AR customer, always dressed head to toe in black, rode his bike to the store, always paid cash, huge Marvel guy, got everything. Sweet guy, not necessarily, I don't know, like he has this, I only have one pen, all right.
You guys are killing me.
Oh my God. Good thing this is the series finale. All right. Shit, I didn't think this was going to be every time. No. I love you, Rich. But Claudio, like, I don't think he, like his personality and just his sweetness, like you wouldn't necessarily expect that from kind of the quote unquote more like biker vibe, even though we're talking a bicycle, but just such a great guy. And he was in the documentary, and I went to his place and filmed, and he came to so many of the screenings, and I ran into him outside Best Buy, a year or so ago, and we caught up and all that. Ran into him at Alamo Drafthouse for the Aquaman movie a few years ago. Anyway, but again, just like a guy who was always there every Wednesday. I still remember the time. And I don't know if this was a regular thing or what, but I remember one time Tom and I, after we got done working at the store on a Wednesday, we went next door to Casa Maya to grab some dinner or a drink. And he was there at the bar, and we realized like he'd been there like all afternoon since he left.
After he left the store, he would always go to Casa Maya and drink all afternoon.
Yeah. So I was like, this is some routine. Anyway, Brian Claudio, that's my next pick.
He liked beer.
Yes. That's
maybe
round.
you.
All right, that's round 2. Maybe we'll do 5 rounds. This is going pretty quick. All right, Bill, kick us off.
So somebody who helped out in the cleaning of the store in a very big way that I think we would definitely see walking down or walking out. Are we walking out of the store, or what are we doing?
Yeah, it's on the way out. We can leave it. We can leave it
trying
vague
to navigate the aisle.
Yeah,
we're walking crab-like through the aisles, right?
Yes.
I think UPS Jimmy should be on this list.
All right, UPS Jimmy.
Yeah.
We would not, if he were here for a recording, we could keep his mic down very low. His level could be very low because he doesn't need much of a boost. Always remember that booming voice.
Well, it was probably because of the Mountain Dew and donuts he would be eating throughout the day.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Good pick. See, like there are people I wouldn't have even thought of necessarily for this. So that's why it's great to do this. All right, Rich, your next pick.
This is me leaving, and just like the guy in Scrubs, seeing all the different people. But as I walk out, I'd like to come up to Evil Rich Roney and Gene Cahill standing adjacent to one another, and I'd just get nervous. I figure universe.
The world would explode if this happened.
That's good. I was gonna be a stickler and say that's really 2, but that's such a good pitch. I think we got to go with that. I love that.
Yeah, I had to do that. Evil Rich
joint,
Roney.
Yeah, the joint, the two of them together. Yeah. Perfect.
This is terrible. Which one was Evil Rich Roney?
With the beret.
Gary Terry.
Gary Terry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you guys got into it over Don Heck. Was that it?
Yeah, boy, you got a good memory. I had some very enjoyable discussions with I guess, Terry. And we were talking about artists hitting on all cylinders. And then I said, I can't stand Don Heck. Not a good move. But I would have those two just because universe is merging.
That's perfect. All right, Steve.
I guess it's just kind of flooding in my head. So many people, but then you can't remember their names. There was a young kid, our first year, I think it was. His name was Craig from Scarsdale. Quiet, nice kid. I knew that his mom had passed away that first year. But he used to come and hang out with us a lot. And decades later, I got an email from him. I guess he's in California or someplace now. But just saying, I had a hard time when I was growing up. But thanks for the store, because it was a place for me to go.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a nice thing.
That's really nice.
It's heartwarming.
My third pick is, I'm going Nickelback. I'm going with Sandro. Just great guy, great customer, always friendly. And as far as nicknames, we did Comic Eater, Evil Rich Roney. We had a bunch of nicknames. We've shared a bunch. There's some I couldn't share. And, but Nickelback was, I feel like, such a fun nickname. Although, there's a whole documentary out now about all the hate that Nickelback has gotten, because it's a whole thing online. Like, people just dump on the band all the time. And there's this whole documentary about it. And it's insane to me because, and I know people will disagree with me, but there are a lot of songs of theirs I like. I feel like this hate is really unjustified. They're clearly popular, clearly successful. They've had this long tenure. They play sold out shows. The song Gotta Be Somebody was big during one of the summers I was working at the store. I heard it all the time. I listened to it in preparation for this. So part of it is in defense of Nickelback, the band, but no, mostly Sandro, our customer, he gets a spot here. And I don't know, maybe he's doing like he did in the video and he's like playing a little Nickelback, or he's just like decked out in rock star gear. I don't know. He's something. He's leaning into the Nickelback of it all. So we're going to go with Nickelback. And that's round 3. All right. Oh, man, round 4. Go for it, Bill.
So if I did this to you guys, would you know who I'm talking about?
Jerry Stiller?
No, do it again.
Oh. So
Frank,
I think
Big Frank.
Big Frank.
Yeah.
Frank Marafino should definitely be on our list of people walking out. He was the only one who had a handshake that rivaled Rich Roney's handshake, in part because his hand was twice the size of a normal person's hand.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I
Big
love Frank. Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah.
That's really good. Rich?
Tom Doherty.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Doherty.
That one year
Just an
that I went to
employee.
work at Brandon's father's firm downtown, he worked the store Monday through Friday, and then I'd work the store Saturday and Sunday. It was very tiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was one of the ones on the list I reached out to, but maybe he got caught up with New York.
I remember the
Comic-Con.
Christmas season that year.
Oh,
Yeah.
we don't need to tell that story.
All right,
Well,
Steve.
before we move on, he gave us many great things. Butcher paper,
Butcher
2
paper.
words, butcher paper,
Butcher
or
paper.
1 word, butcher paper. And the more you buy, the less you pay, I think.
That is a classic. That is a classic. All right,
Yeah.
Steve, your 4th pick.
I don't think any of you guys knew her, but there was a young woman named Layla who used to come in. No, after hour. It was close to closing, maybe the last half hour or before closing. And she was a big X-Men fan. And, we would talk, she'd buy her stuff, but we would talk for a while. And I thought she was one of the nicest people. I always thought to myself, if I were 20 years younger, I'd still be older than her. But I definitely would have asked her out. And I don't think any of you ever knew her.
No.
I remember.
What was her name?
Layla.
I remember her.
She's not the girl who came in with the daughter, right?
No.
The Gilmore Girls?
No. Her father passed away, and it was a tough time for her and her mom. They owned a house that was pretty much destroyed with Hurricane Sandy. And I remember trying to put the whole thing back together. But even after we closed, it's like, let's stay in touch, and never did. And I don't know what happened to her. But,
all right, Layla.
Yeah.
My fourth pick, and then we'll just do one more round after this. My fourth pick is I can't believe he's still on the table. Anyway, Jeff.H. Jeff Wong is definitely one of my picks. And I place him, so in the Scrubs finale, there was a character called Hooch, one of the doctors at the hospital. And whenever Hooch would be on screen, Turk and JD would be like, Hooch is crazy. And then Hooch would just walk away. In JD's final fantasy sequence as he's walking through the hallway, Hooch is the last one at the end of the hallway, and he's in a straitjacket, and he goes, Hooch is crazy. And that's it. It's beautiful. So for me, Jeff Wong is the last one there, the last one we pass. But what I pose to you guys, and Bill, you in particular, but if either of you have a take as well, what line do we give Jeff.H? What does he say at the very end?
Oh my God, you got to give me 1 second. I got to think.
I'll say
Gargamel.
Gargamel? That's pretty good.
Remember his secret word?
That's pretty good. That's perfect. What I had in my head was, yeah. But out of context, that doesn't do as much. I kind of like Gargamel. That's what he told us, the secret.
All he says.
When he was on his SWAT team, that was the code word that they gave, and then all the troops swarmed in. So Gargamel. Perfect.
Gargamel.
You got it, man. You nailed it. All right. All right, that was round 4, our 5th and final round. Bill, kick us off.
Well, I was hoping we would have more rounds where we talked about Steve's girlfriends, because JD talks about his girlfriends, Can
we do 7?
But we're not going to do that.
You want to do 7?
Yeah, let's do 7 rounds.
All right.
I don't know if we could do 7. Well, all right.
It's only 2 more.
I'll use up a selfish one for myself. It's hard for me to think about all the times at the store and not think about the times that I worked there with my brother. So I think Little Bill, my brother Mike, should be one of these characters.
Oh, that was on Rich's list.
You want a pen?
Little Bill.
Bastards.
I always remember Little Bill offering to put me in a chokehold to demonstrate. I was like, that's okay. And I always remember yeah.
This is like my Christmas every year.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And I always remember when you told him that I was going to Fordham, he was like, "Oh, you're going to get beat up." And then you were like, "No, the college." He was like, "Oh, okay." So he thought I was high school, 4 years young. He thought I was in 8th grade when we had that conversation.
Yeah.
And the main thing he wanted me to know that I was going to get beat up. So those are my but no, we had a lot of fun with him at the store. That's a great pick. That's an excellent pick.
Yep.
Rich?
It's got to be there, and especially because we're going to do a couple more rounds. But Jay Mizell has got to be in the audience as we walked in.
I mean, I put Jay.
Yeah,
he's
with us.
He's with us. But that's fine. We all define this a little differently. For me, if Jay's walking with us, but all right, but Jay Mizell, of course. But does he say anything?
Oh, you can. I would never do justice to. I mean, I'm just a little candle next to the sun.
I love that you picked Jay because out of all of us, you had the least interaction with him. Although you were, to Rich's credit, man, he was there when Jay was closing out that flea market booth, and he was there humping with the rest of them.
There we go.
Always humping.
There it is.
No, and I remember that one Christmas when we went to Dunkin' Donuts and had coffee, and Jay was a very nice man.
He is.
So
right.
I was happy to mention that.
As far as what he would say, if he didn't say "by spoon," he would talk about the Latin.
Maybe. I feel like times have changed. That's a big part of his documentary. But it's like, I don't know how much we can say there. But he's a very colorful commentary. All right, your next pick, Steve. I feel like Steve's getting into this now. Look at Steve. He's he's come alive. Here. Look at the fire.
In my head, I'm going through the list of numbers.
Yeah.
And I can see this person said they deserve a mention. They deserve a mention. They did. I'm still only double digits right now. I'm going to squeeze 2 in because that's unfair. But number 30 was Mark Fryman. He was a young kid. Watched him grow up. His dad was a doctor. His mother Ellen would come in with him. Again, years would go by. I've seen this kid grow up, go to college. Girlfriend brought in the girlfriend, broke up with the girlfriend, brought a different girlfriend. And I said, gee, I really like that first girlfriend. But as the years went on, it's like life goes on and then they moved on. But, Mark and the Fryman family, you think about them and said they were such good people. My official number 79, Bruce Rapkin.
Oh yeah.
I think Bruce, another gentleman, scholarly, smart, big collector, really appreciated comics, old comics. Again, good people. The kind you look back and say, I'm glad I got to know this guy. I'm glad I've met this guy. So that's my.
I can't believe this is another one. But you know what? I'm surprised, but it's like, that's because I'm looking at it through my lens. We all have our perspectives. And like, Steve, I haven't known a single person that you've mentioned yet. And but no, that's good. Like that's the point of this. And we're representing a cross section of the shop's history. And, but I'm still surprised he hasn't been said yet. So I'm going to grab him. Oleg.
Oh, good choice.
And I think his line, he's got to talk about the no tax. Cause for Tom and myself, that was really kind of an indelible experience where Tom, mistakenly tried to ring him up like you normally would. And he, no tax. So that's the line I would give him. It's got to be no tax, right? Yeah, it's got to be that. Okay, Oleg. All right, that was round 5. I mean, I'm game to keep doing this. All right, round 6. You go, Bill.
Do you have a sixth? Bill, do you have one?
Do I have one?
Yeah.
Sure. So again, when JD was walking down that hallway, he was talking about his girlfriends. And I remember distinctly, Steve, one day when I came to the comic shop, you said to me, if I wound up dead, this is who did it. You handed me a business card of Valerie. Yeah. So I think she would walk across the scene, very briefly.
I'm very happy for you, Steve, that you landed with Anne, that you reconnected.
We all are. We absolutely all are.
That you built this life together. It's really beautiful. And I mean, these guys, just due to, they're older and just the time period in your life, they caught more of your romantic tribulations. I think I only kind of got like a little bit of that. But still, like Ted Mosby, your emotional endurance, you went through hell to get there, but you made it. Yep. And I'm very happy for you guys. So that's very lovely.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Rich. Yeah, we all are.
Okay. I don't know this guy's name, but for a brief moment in time, there was a guy who was almost going to buy the store, and he had
Gary.
Okay. He had like some American Express Platinum card or some
the black card.
The black card, and I can remember a couple of Saturday mornings he would be in there talking to Sean, and I never knew what was going on. Like, was he disabled? I mean, physically disabled, and he got money as a result of it? Did he work for the government? But I do know for a couple of months there was a theory that he was going to purchase the store. That stood out. I really couldn't follow the conversation, but it made an impression.
He walked into. I guess he had talked to me about it once, and I said, you know what? If you offered $100,000, I'd say no. If you ordered $500,000, I'd say here are the keys, because I'd be stupid not to take it. So I said, what was my number? I'll say 250 or something. 200. He came into the store when Sean was there and took one of those pieces of cardboard that we kept everything, and just wrote down the number. I think it was 235, and said, "Give this to Steve. He'll know what it means." And so he was offering to buy it for $235,000, and I didn't take him seriously. I knew he had, he always paid full, and he had the black credit card, which is a sign of wealth, I suppose. But then he comes in with a brokerage statement to show me how much money he had, just liquid assets. I'm looking at it and saying, it doesn't impress me. I had more, But I guess he just wanted to prove to me that he had the cash to buy it. And that's why there was we're going to close. We're not going to close. It was a real headache for me at the end, because if we were going to close and he bought the store, he'd have no product in July. So I had to crash. And you know how long it took me to do the order form every month. Overnight, I had to do the entire order form so he'd have some stuff for July. And then, and you kind of wonder, is he another Jeff Wong, where the stories are half true, not true? Did he really swim with sharks and tell sharks, wrap him on the nose and say, no, don't do that? Those are the kind of stories he would come up with. He would whip off his shirt to show me he could do one-arm push-ups, that type of thing. Crazy stuff. But his wife came in, she seemed kind of normal, and said, no, he's serious. And then, of course, we got that email, because he didn't even have the balls to come to me to say, I don't want to buy the store. But the balls to say, what you say X $100,000, why do you think it's worth that much? And I never even had the chance to say, you're the one who's buying it. You're the one who's had the independent auditor come in, take an inventory, and then tell you what the value of this stuff is. But yeah, boy, that guy.
Yeah.
He's condemned to hell.
That's a key figure.
So isn't that good? I triggered something, and look at the...
Yeah, no, that's a good pick, because, I mean, that's especially when you're talking about the ending of all of this. No, that is key. All right, your next pick, Steve.
Boy, it just threw everything out of my head.
Thanks, Rich.
Golly.
Will you hear who comes next?
Are we going to do one more round after this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Remember Alan Dongy?
Yes, Alan Dingy.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was Dingy.
We all thought it was Dingy, and then was it you who corrected us?
It's Dongy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's French.
Yo, on Scrubs, there's the doctor who they call Beardface, and he's like, it's Beard Face, damn it. That's like this.
There you
That's
go.
perfect. And could his line be, it's Dongy, damn it? Can we give him that? All right.
Yeah. He was ex-Marine. A good fellow, but hard with money management. Yeah, he felt bad. But, I basically had to cut him off for the sake of his family.
Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah. All right, my next pick, he was not on my list. He only popped into my head now. Gresham.
Oh, God.
So for anyone...
That's the guy who would like look at the books and the light. That guy, Gresham Gregory?
Yeah. So for anyone who... We've told the story before, but for anyone who knows the... number 108. For anyone who knows the movie Clerks, it's like the milk lady, the person who's just like standing there with the refrigerator open, like going through all of the milks, trying to find the one with this like magical expiration date that's like months down the line. That was like him examining each book. I mean, we joke about Rich, like searching for the Rich Roney copy, the Roniest copy, but no, this was like an hours long process of going through each one. That was painstaking, but that was, again, that was like kind of a very distinct figure in all of this. So I'm going Gresham.
Okay.
All right, that was round 6. I mean, you guys tell me, how many rounds do you want to do total? This is our 7th round. Do you want to wrap it up here or do one more after this?
How many do you have on your list?
I've easily got 5 more names.
Well, maybe we could just go through a couple.
You know what? How about this? Let's do 8 because Scrubs ran 8 seasons. This podcast has gone 8 years. 8's a good number. Let's go 8. So we'll do 2 more rounds.
Oh, man.
All right. Bill, you're up.
I don't know if I have 2 more rounds. So I'll work on it.
Can we borrow
How
Rich's?
about,
Let's borrow Rich's.
Yeah. How about a duo? So when I worked at the comic shop early on, there were a lot of other employees, and I don't even know if you know about or you've even talked to. So 2 that come to mind because of 2 funny stories or just funny things I remember. There was Little Frank, and I don't remember his last name, but he was famous for calling Steve's dad Daddy-O, and I think that's where the Daddy-O name came from. And then there was Little Drew, who also worked there, who was very famous for antagonizing Metalhead with the "You save computer lives."
You know what I do.
There you go. I don't think I ever met Little Frank, but no, I definitely knew Little Drew. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
I don't remember Little Frank at all.
I can't think of his last name. He also went to Fordham Prep. I could probably figure it out.
Did he get beat up?
No, he didn't get beat up. But nice guy. But he used to work there, and he called your dad Daddy-O all the time.
Oh wait, he wasn't so little.
He was a big. We called him Little because of a big Frank who was also at the store.
Yeah. This guy was
he was a tall guy, actually.
Yeah, tall guy. But he got very into a Japanese martial art using something called naginata. It's like a gigantic spear. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, back then we had a lot of little and the bigs. We had Big Drew, Little Drew. We had Big Frank, Little Frank. Big Bill, Little Bill.
I know you're the king of the littles here. You had Little Mike on your list.
Sorry, they're just coming to mind.
It's beautiful. All right, your next pick, Rich.
I'm going to go with Steve Chen.
Oh,
jeez.
Well, I mean, anyone that puts Arthur Murray dancing steps on the floor makes an impression in my mind.
Yeah, he was
anybody who puts a
owner.
$5 bill in the $1 bill pile puts an impression in my mind. That's something he would do a lot.
So he owned the store with you for how long?
About a year.
And where'd you find him? Or how'd you come into?
Oh, he used to own New City Comics with Haymont.
Oh, Haymont.
And the pretty much there was a period when Brandon and Prem were the owners, and I think the store was struggling along, and it occurred to me to buy the store back, but I knew I couldn't do it alone, or I didn't think I could do it alone, and since he had sold New City, I figured, okay, we could, and he knew what he was. I figured he knew comics. Hemant said I shouldn't have gotten involved with him, but yeah, that was how that association started.
Steve, I feel like Rich has had the most interesting, unexpected picks. It's a very
Steve
good.
Chin is an interesting one.
Everyone's list has been great. I mean that, but yours I've been most surprised by. But they're very these are key people. Very nice.
I listened very. You said, it's not going to be the core group that goes to dinner with us. Who made an impression at different points in time? So,
Steve, your next pick.
Yeah, again, I wish I had had a list. Name keeps popping into my head and then flying right out. So I'm going to pass this one.
You can't pass. You got to pick somebody. Come on.
You talk, and I won't listen to what you're saying, and I'll try to think of who it was that came to mind.
Okay. All right. We'll switch. We just for this one, we'll switch the order. Oh, that puts me. You know what? I gotta go. It was one of my core stories that I shared. I gotta go with "You're a bitch" guy, in part because it's just like the line is right there. So it's like you're walking down, and it's just like you're still a bitch. Like that guy's there. You're a bitch. That probably didn't give you enough time.
No. Something just came to mind. Another crazy Willy Lilly, which I don't know. It might have been before your time or.
Willy Lilly.
Willy Lilly was a big fellow, looked like a serial killer. Long, blonde, stringy hair.
Sounds like a comic book character.
Well, it was Brandon named him Willy Lilly. I think his name must have been. But he came to the store one snowy night, and I think he was wearing sandals. But he's standing there in front of the door. We were closed, and he's just standing there looking in. And it was kind of creepy, but that left an impression on me.
There you go. All right, that was round 7, our 8th and final round, guys. Here we go, Bill.
Is our final round?
It's our final round.
Oh, let me just look really quick. I got a lot of people written here. Prem doesn't count, right? Because he's one of the guys?
Yeah, he's one of the crew.
I know, but he could be saying, "Thanks, Mom. Thanks for nothing." I don't have any big people that I want to throw out anymore. Eight deep is a lot. How about the mailman who used to come in all the time? And I can't remember his name, but it was the same mailman. We would always talk to him. I like that guy. He should be in the final group.
That's nice. Well, unsung heroes are the mailman, UPS man. Because UPS Jimmy wasn't our UPS guy, right?
No.
Yeah, he just came in. Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right, right on. Well, thank you for your list, but there you go. All right, your final pick, Rich.
Reggie.
Oh, Reggie.
Yeah.
Did you talk to Reggie a lot?
A few times I did. A few times I did. I remember he moved to northern Westchester. He drove down, and there was a few times we spoke about common interest in comics and TV shows. So Reggie stood out. Real decent guy. You filmed him one of the days I was chatting with him.
Yeah, he was always in a dress shirt, right?
Well, he was in a suit because he worked for, I think, a pharmaceutical company.
And Steve never recognized him anytime he came. Remember, that's a callback to when you didn't recognize Rich Roney in his suit.
Oh. Yeah, he had a Corvette.
He already forgot.
He had a Corvette that he was very proud of. And he was also, he used to joke about how he never let his son drive it. Okay.
All right, your last pick.
Safari King. Again, I think this is before all your times, but we used to get the weekly publications or the monthly publications from Krause Publications, the Comic Buyer's Guide newspaper, the Sports Card newspaper, the Toy Shop News, I think it was called. And this is before the internet, right? So you have basically a publication that comes out with printed ads, and you pour over this thing and find some action figure or whatever that you're looking for, and you contact some dealer in Missouri, and hope that by the time the publication got to you, the guy still had it, that type of thing. That's how we used to do mail order. And this guy would come in, we'd get a brand new bundle of 10 or 15 copies, and he never, we used to cut the string off the bundle and put it on the counter. But he would always take one right from the middle because he wanted one that was never touched by human hands. And he used to come in religiously to buy it brand new whenever it came out. And again, he's another guy who passed away. And one of his buddies came in one day to tell me that he had passed away. And but he had this white, looked like a leopard coat, like a safari jacket, and white with the black spots. So we used to call him Safari King. I don't even remember his real name.
I know a lot of customers, by nickname or by number, but we're
Safari
nothing
King's
at all.
a better name anyway.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for the list. All right, my last pick here. I was going to go more in the jokey vein and select Rough Lover because that was a really iconic story to me, at least from my time at the store. But instead, I'm going to go with the more heartfelt and shout out to Tom O'Sullivan because he was just one of those customers there. Never a problem, just like a nice, like a normal, pleasant guy. He has been another one who's been following what I've been doing over the years. He's come to screenings. I know he goes to All Yeah now. He's gotten really friendly with Mark. But and he even, when I interviewed him for the first documentary, he talked about how sometimes he'll just, he would just eavesdrop on a conversation. He wouldn't necessarily kind of be partaking per se, but that, he enjoyed that and everything. And so again, he was one of those just steady, dependable Wednesday regulars, and just a super nice guy. And so shout out to Tom O'Sullivan. We played it straight for the last one. The Rough Lover was tempting, but it's all right. For anyone who's listening to this for their first episode, they're like, what is this Rough Lover story? Go back to season 1. All right. When I think about kind of any regrets that I have about the store, honestly, the only regrets I have are I wish there are certain things I wish I had done sooner. I wish I had started going out to dinner with you guys sooner. We've talked about this so many years of the invitations, and it was really just like shyness on my part where, I would always decline. And then once I started,
we always thought your mom cooked so well that you said, I'd rather have my mother's cooking than to go out with you guys and take my shot.
That's what he told me. He's not going to go to Pizza and Brew. His mother makes a much better meal.
I mean, maybe there was a part of me that was, I don't know that I was necessarily like I didn't go out to eat a ton, and maybe that was part of it, but no, it was more really just the shyness. So it's like, I wish I had gone out to dinner with you guys sooner. I wish I had gotten behind the counter sooner, working the register. Not that I refused it per se, but I definitely could have done that sooner. And it wasn't until probably like end of high school or early college. And again, that too was probably the shyness of because I was happy, organizing the back issues, off to the side, and to kind of be like the person, steering the ship. Maybe that was a little daunting. Again, as the years went on, I got past that shyness, and it's like, I love being behind the counter and running the store for the day and talking to everybody. But I wish I had done that sooner. And I wish I had started the podcast sooner. It's like it took the store closing to do this. And yeah, they gave us a lot of juice for that first season and everything. But it's like, we could have been doing this for years, talking about whatever was going on at the shop or whatever we were reading. And, I just wish I had done it sooner. So like those I think are the main regrets. At the Last Supper, the big dinner we had when the store was closing, I wish I had, not in a morbid, weird way, but I wish I had said more of a farewell to people. Because I think all of us, not you, Steve, you were the most realistic about all of this. But I think for so much of it, it's like, all right, I'll see you. But it's like, and not that I would have been like, have a good life, but more kind of, I wish I had taken the opportunity to maybe just say like, hey, I've really enjoyed this time that we shared or whatever, but kind of recognize that this really was the last time. And because most of those people I've not seen, or maybe it's just like fleeting, here and there. So I would have done that. So I think when I think of regrets, like those are the only real things that come to mind. What about, do any of you have any lingering regrets when it comes to your time at Alternate Realities? Rich?
I can't think of any. I can't. I mean, if life had been different and I didn't have to travel as much as I did, there were times when I would spend a weekend in Dayton or Milwaukee or Little Rock. And it denied me the opportunity to go to the store and hang out on a Saturday. But getting away from the regrets, my God, I loved Saturdays at the store. There were times I'd wake up, take a shower, have breakfast, I'd have a cup of coffee, and I'd go right to the store. And I'd be at the store from 10 in the morning So I went back home at 10 or 11 at night.
Wonderful. What about you, Bill? Any regrets?
I don't think I have any regrets, but I will, just to circle back to something that we said early on. You know, Steve, you said something about like that Confucius saying about like your second life begins when you're whatever it is. I guess I'm on my second life at this point, and I recognize that. But I recognize also that alternate realities was the best time of my first life, for sure.
No, it's good. What about you, Steve?
Hands down.
Regrets?
How much time do we have?
I guess I look at it a little differently. I said, this is the way my life rolled along, you know, and things happen the way it's supposed to. I didn't marry certain people because it wouldn't have worked out. So thank goodness it didn't go that way. No, I guess I can't say there are regrets. You know, this is what life was. I think, if anything, going back to that whole second life starting, I think at this point in my life, I realize again, because that is the ultimate release. It's an understanding of how much time is left. I mean, I joke about let's have another finale, but realistically, we might not be around for that. You know, and that's why every day now is something that is a good day, and try to enjoy every single one of them. And there's no reason to, like, you know, I cut out the Mountain Dew after I closed the store because it was, again, that's another thing that was killing me. But at this point, instead of doing it once a week or once every 2 weeks, it's like, you know what? Life is short. If I want to have a Mountain Dew, I don't have to have 6 of them, but I can have a Mountain Dew and enjoy it. I can have a Popette if I want, you know, and it's like, why not? It's like, I don't want to be on my deathbed saying, I wish I had that last Mountain Dew. You know? Which is with the rabbi collection. When I got sick, yeah. I'm in the chair. I wish I had a Mountain Dew. Yeah, no, there are no.
You can't start,
huh?
Yeah, you got to stop thinking about death now. You're going to be a grandfather.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to hear that shit.
It's actually, I'm putting money away for college now. And you know me, so I've already put a lot of money away just because it's going to be ridiculous. But yeah, it's a whole new world.
Steve, I can think of one regret you have.
Which one?
The last customer.
You went smoking?
Yeah, well, that's my regret. But the last customer, I think you regret not taking the book and ripping it up right in front of him and throwing the pieces of paper on the floor.
No, I didn't need to physically do that. I think I'm a little upset after the fact to find out that he came back later and somebody sold it to him.
Steve Ryan sold it to him.
You know, I wouldn't have sold it to him. So, but I'm glad it happened. Honestly, it's not a regret. I'm so glad it happened. It was a sign from a higher power because I was going through that thing. Maybe I shouldn't close the store. And he sent me a message by sending me this guy who pissed me off so much. I said, okay, I will not reopen the store. You can blame him if you're upset that there's no store. But
no, I blame Bill because Bill was the one who really got that move out going. If Bill hadn't come in, you'd probably still be taking stuff out of there. So,
but the
one truckload at a time.
But the beauty of it is that so many people that know me so well were in the store helping close out, and so they were there to witness the whole thing. Like Pellerito, I think, thought was the funniest thing. He was so glad to be there to witness it because you tell a story like that, nobody's going to believe it. I thought, what a wonderful way to end the
and
store.
You got another regret, not checking your Amex receipts a little earlier.
Oh, that was not well. Again, it worked out well. Really, do you remember that the whole thing with the Amex?
That's when Metalhead set it up wrong, right, and it was going into the wrong account, and then we got this windfall of cash, right?
Yeah. For because it was a rabbi collection, right? They paid for it, and I was expecting a couple $1,000s to be coming in. And I'm watching the receipts, nothing's happening. So I finally called American Express, and they said, "You don't have an account with us." So what are you talking about? I have every, because I save everything. I have every receipt for the past God knows how many years. So I had to fill out the forms, send them copies of every receipt, and then one day $35,000 appears in the bank.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a good business.
Amazing.
So no regrets. No regrets.
Rich, do you have any more? You seem to have you have the running list of Steve's regrets. Do you have anything else?
Oh, yeah, there's one more regret that Steve has. Not learning how to properly put in the timestamp on a VCR tape.
Well, again, this is before DVDs. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we had the VHS tape thing, and I would buy all these blank tapes, and I pop it in to set it at, if a show is going to start at 9 o'clock, I'd set it for what?
8:59.
8:58,
Okay.
yeah.
And then in theory,
it would go an hour, and I'd put a couple of minutes afterwards in case it ran a minute or so afterwards. And I thought I was so smart to do that. But if it's a 9 o'clock show, I did 8:59 and 9:03 instead of 10:03. And I guess, so I had the opening credits, and then it died, right? And I guess for Rich was, he's watching TV at home.
Oh, that's a different story.
Oh, that's a different story. Oh, you want to tell that one?
Yeah, you finish this one, then I'll.
Oh, well, yeah, and it's like it's one of those things that Steve's not going to be very happy. But yeah, because I had religiously taped every single episode of
Pretender.
Buffy.
Oh, okay.
This is Buffy.
Okay.
And so I had a complete library before you could buy it.
The other story, I know one of the shows he enjoyed a lot was The Pretender, and there was a girl, Miss Parker, in it, right? And he put the tape in to record it, and then we all went to dinner. And I got back home to my house, and it's like 10:45, and I'm watching The Pretender, right? And it's running long. And you could just kind of tell from a timing standpoint. And then we hit 11 o'clock, and it's still going. I thought, oh, shit, Steve's not going to be happy. What happened was there was like the Masters or some big golf tournament that ran late, and NBC pushed back all their shows that night. And I came in, this is when I came in Saturday and Sunday. I go in, and I go, hey, you're going to, the thing ran late. He goes, why? And I go, because of golf. Golf? They delayed it for golf. He was so angry, so indignant.
You were angry in those old days.
He still is.
I joke that that's what kept me going. It's dark side. If I weren't so angry, it fuels me. I mean, I'm still angry, but I do it at the top of the hill now. Yeah. Thanks for the memories. All good memories.
Yeah.
I love it. Rich you really had a lot of stuff locked and loaded.
Rich
ready to
got
go
under
there.
your skin.
Steve, I love how Steve is like, like everything happens the way it's supposed to, and I really don't have any regrets. And Rich is like, yeah, how about this and that?
You got 10.
I got 3 of them.
And I love too how it's so funny how we approach things because, I think we were all kind of thinking of it in terms of these more like, bigger picture kind of like fundamental ideas.
Are we being ridiculed?
No, it's not ridicule, but it's like, and then Rich is like, yours were super specific. Like, you missed this episode of a show and this and that. So again, I'm sure kind of on a day-to-day basis, yeah, there are things that we wish had gone differently, but I'm glad to hear that it seems like for most of us, big picture, we look back and it's not filled with regrets when it comes to our time at the store. That's a great thing. Guys, we've been going for almost 4 hours, and I think it's time to bring this in. So what I want to do is I want to give each of you, we'll do a series wrap on each of you. I want to give each of you the floor to say whatever it is that you want to say to each other or to the audience. And Bill, I'll start with you, my friend.
Oh, you spring these things. I feel like Steve just a second ago.
I keep everyone on their toes.
No prepared statements. I have no prepared statements. I think every time I think about what the store means to me, I just turn into a ball of tears. More recently, I've just become like a mess in that regard. Steve, this store meant the world to me. I think you know that. And thank you for all the memories that I'll live with the rest of my life. So that's all I have to say. Thanks. And I love you guys immensely.
It's beautiful. Rich.
God, how do you follow that? Wow, I know how the guy that replaced Johnny Carson felt now. I got to echo, I mean, I treasure these friendships with you guys. I treasure the wonderful memories of the store. And Steve, I said this the closing night at that dinner, and I reiterate it. Your dedication and hanging in there for all those years set the stage where the friendships I have here and probably dozens of others I'm less close because, as you said, time erodes things. But it was the best of times. The best of times.
Well said. Steve?
Well, okay, I mean, what's to say? We've said this many times before. Life is good times and bad times, hard times and great times, and lots of fun and laughter and a lot of tears and hardships. But I'll look back and I said it was a good life, And I mean, you boys know how immensely proud I am. I love you like sons. I always will.
Yeah,
and
I love you too, Steve.
Yeah, it's. I consider myself very lucky that you guys came into my life. Keep calling. Yeah, but yeah, again, it's circle of life, and we just got to really appreciate what we got and try to make the world a little better place for everybody else. I think that's what we're supposed to do. So, that's our mission. Let's keep at it. All right.
Well said. Look, I love all of you, and I'm so grateful for the friendships that we continue to share. And Steve, again, I know we've said it so many times, but thank you for creating and maintaining this place for us. And I know we've talked about how it was something different for you than it was for us, and we recognize that. But, for us, it was just this, all of the words that we've used to describe it, the hangout, the clubhouse, and it meant so much to us. And it's where I grew up, and I'm sure Bill feels similarly, and others kind of from our generation. And I think back on all of the places where I could have spent time and people I could have spent time with, and I can't think of any better place or people. I am so proud and honored that this was where I spent those formative years. It meant the world to me and continues to mean the world to me. And I love that I can look back on that time with just the biggest smile on my face. So again, I thank you. I thank all of you guys. I love you guys so much. I know we will continue to be in each other's lives. And I hope you all know if you ever need anything, I'm always there for all of you. Now, to close us out, I have prepared some remarks as I am wont to do here. All right, here we go. As we reach closing time for the podcast, I can't help but think back on closing time at Alternate Realities, the routine we would perform at the close of each business day. I performed that ritual so many times that it became second nature. And even now, as I recount it, I'm right back there again. Count out the cash from the register, run the credit card receipts, put the cash box in the safe in the back room, make sure the back door is fully closed and locked, turn out the lights in the back room, turn out the lights in the statue showcases, walk the floor one more time through the new comic aisle, past the back issue bins, cross the front of the store, flip out the lights, punch in the alarm code, exit, lock the door, making sure to push the door in while turning the key, pull on the door to make sure it actually locked, pull on it a couple more times just to be sure, get in the car, drive away, and do it all with the knowledge that the store would be there the next day, at least until the day it wasn't. And I think in a lot of ways, we've performed a similar ritual here as we said goodbye to this podcast. We did in this finale what we've done across so many years and episodes: told stories, retold stories, busted each other's chops, expressed love for one another, complained about some customers, and celebrated the place that brought us all together. I've been to a lot of comic shops over the years, probably more than most people, and I've been to some great ones. At the same time, I've never found one that has replaced, or I think even really could replace, Alternate Realities in my heart. And there's something very bittersweet about that, because on the one hand, it makes me sad to know that I'll likely not have that experience again, at least not in the same way. But on the other hand, it fills my heart to know that we were right all along, that there really was something special about the store. And how lucky was I that I got to be a part of it. It has been my honor to host this podcast for the past 8 years. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all. And now, for the final time, don't be a flat squirrel.
Even death won't stop me. I'll stand my ground and claw through dirt and fly. I won't ever look back. I won't ever come back. This is not my home, not my home.
And we're out.
Bravo.
Thank you, guys.
Bravo.
That's great.
See you at the next one.